Welcome back to the podcast, guys. In today's episode, I am joined by the founder of the Roche Marketing Group, 2 times international bestseller and marketing mind, Mr. Callum Roche. In this episode, myself and Callum discussed everything from business, entrepreneurship, and what success looks like in the business world, especially for people who are building their own businesses or starting up their own projects. Callum walks me through his own background and the journey which led him to building his own business, which allows him to work with massive companies building their marketing, sales, online presence and brand. And we delve into a bunch of other interesting topics like Joe Rogan and some other controversies that are happening at the moment. I really enjoyed this episode. I had a great time chatting with Callum, and I hope you enjoy it too. And folks, don't forget that this podcast is sponsored by Flotation Therapy Ireland. Please, if you have not tried flotation therapy yet, make sure you check it out. Adam, who owns Flotation Therapy, has once again very kindly offered a discount to anybody who listens to this podcast. Just mention Prymal when you're booking your float. It is an absolutely fantastic experience. Adam has 2 facilities, one in Malahide Marina and one in Chancery Lane in town. It is definitely worth checking out. If you have not tried floating before, it's such a fantastic way to take care of your body and your mind. But don't take my word for it. Go and check it out yourself. Thank you again to Adam and to Flotation Therapy Ireland. Welcome to our shared journey to find the answers to questions about health, wellness, nutrition, performance, life and success, and to craft the most resilient, hardy and happy humans you've ever seen. Welcome to the Prymal Podcast. Mr. Callum Roche, welcome to the podcast.
How are you doing, Dan?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
Good, man. It's great to be here. First of all, I just want to say anyone who is considering coming to Prymal, get here, because I walked in and I was like, wow, this is probably the best podcast studio I've ever been in.
You like it? People must think I pay people to say this.
No, you genuinely didn't. I just have to give respect where it's due. This place is amazing, man. So glad to be here. Guys, wherever you live, drive here. Come here, I'm telling you.
Fly here.
And Dan, this is the first time I've ever spoke to you in person, the first time we've met. And I just feel like I've clicked with you already. So it's really good to be here. And I just feel like, sometimes I go on podcasts and, I was literally just saying before we went on the mic, some of them are, you don't really click with people as well, but come in here, it's great, man. And I just feel like I'm chatting to a friend. And I think it's going to be good.
Oh, it's going to be good. All right. I appreciate those nice words as well. Fair play. And just to echo what we just said before we started rolling here is the whole reason I do these podcasts is to help empower people. A lot of what I speak about in general is health and wellness and fitness, but I specifically was extremely interested in having you on, and I'm delighted we've had about 90 minutes to chat already to kind of get to know each other, which is great. But I was really excited because a huge part of this empowerment process is understanding business, marketing, financial health. Just being able to understand and educate yourself on topics like this gives you serious power. That's what I'm all about. And from the conversation we've just had, which we should have recorded, to be honest with you,
that would have been a podcast in itself.
It would have been a podcast.
Maybe like an. I don't know if you have to put one of them things on it, like a
disclaimer.
Disclaimer, yeah. You know what I mean? Maybe it's 18 and up.
18, yeah, 100% 18 and up. But to give a bit of context, because I always like to do this at the start of a podcast so people understand where what you're saying is coming from, would you mind giving us a little bit of background on yourself, what you do, where you came from? And I know you're very passionate about the principles that drive why you do what you do. Would you mind giving us a little bit of the story of Callum Roche to this day? And you're only a fucking young fella as well. You're only 24.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was away in London at the weekend with Ty Lopez and Rob Moore. And shout out to Rob Moore. Gave me a lot of encouragement in terms of my age. Told me don't be so hard on myself. And sometimes you have to, I guess it's that whole thing of happy but never satisfied. That's my whole thing. I'm happy but never satisfied. Like I always want to do better, and I feel like I'm running out of time. And I think something as entrepreneurs, I don't know if you feel the same, but that's how I feel. And I was saying in terms of like people talk about anxiety and all this, just all the stuff that comes with maybe being an entrepreneur. And that's just my life. I didn't know any different. Like it's just like, okay, this is the way it's meant to go. And I'm always just, I don't know. I'm an impatient person. For anyone listening, if you're an entrepreneur, Dan, I don't know about you. Are you impatient?
I'm very impatient. And I think I said this to you as well. I feel, correct me if I'm wrong here, that comes when you have a mission.
Yeah.
You feel you've something you need to do here. You've something to achieve. You have people to help. You've stuff to do. the impatience for me comes with a fear of I won't get that stuff done. I have so many things I want to do, I need to do. I feel a real calling and a purpose. That's where my impatience comes from. So if it's not even patience, I almost panic sometimes. I'm like, shit, I've so much I need to do here.
That's it. And you know what the crazy thing is? When you sign up to be an entrepreneur, it's like you're giving up the 40-hour work week
Yeah.
to work 100 hours a week.
yeah.
It literally, that's what it is. And someone says, oh, when do you switch off? Like, it never switches off.
Yeah.
That's what you sign up for. That's part of it. You know, at the end of the day, people say, oh, when are you finished work? I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, when what is finished?
Yeah.
What is finished, you know?
Yeah. So take us back through your journey, because some people might not be familiar with you. I know a lot of people are, because you've quite a prominent presence now, but some people might not be familiar with who you are, what you do. You're wearing your lovely hoodie there, Roche Marketing Group. What's the setup at the moment?
So, in terms of right now or my backstory?
Let's start with the backstory and we'll work up to right now.
So, 24. I'm a world-class marketer. Just got to say that firstly. So in case you've never heard of me before, I'm the founder of Roche Marketing Group, and I have another company called Ecom and Chill. I'm the co-founder of that. Specifically what I do, what I'm passionate about is I help people get customers from the internet predictably and without overwhelm. And for any entrepreneurs listening, I would recommend getting clear on what you do. Do you ever get when someone asks, what do you do? And I remember years ago, like, geez, what do I do actually? You know,
it's taken me 5 minutes to explain it to people.
Yeah. So just maybe get that down if you're an entrepreneur. But backstory, man. Geez, I guess it all really started. I always knew I wanted to be my own boss. I always knew that. Ever since when I was in school, it used to frighten me. It's crazy. When I was in school, I never wanted to finish. I actually didn't want school to end. And I'll tell you why. The reason why I didn't want school to end was because I thought that when I finished school, I seen everybody and most people seemed very down. And as a kid, I viewed them as depressed. I was like, wow, when I leave school, I'm just going to go work a job. Everyone, like, as a kid, this was my outlook on things. Everyone seemed really miserable. So I was like, okay, I don't want to finish school. You know, I want to stay here for as long as I can. I'm having fun. So then I always knew I wanted to move into business. But at the same time, I loved helping people, and I was debating whether to go into being a teacher. So from there, I was like, my brother had done business management. I was like, you know what? I love business. I'm going to go to college and do that. So went to college. That was all well and good. And my goal was, I was saying, okay, I knew I wanted to make a lot of money. So I used to be at home and I'd Google things like, how do I move up the ranks in a company to, like, become the CEO or whatever it may be, because I knew if I get to that level, that's where the money was. So that was my goal. I didn't really know I was going to go start a business. I just thought I was going to go climb the ladder, and that was my route to making the millions that I had dreamed of. And went to college, and I was a year or two in, I was like, I was like, in 2 years, I'm going to be finished this. Do I really just want to go sit in the office? And it was kind of daunting on me, really, these fears that I had since a child. And I was like, I don't know. What am I going to do here? This isn't really what I want to do. And at the same time, I had been reading a lot of books. And I bumped into an old friend who was maybe like 18 at the time. And he was making like 100 grand from YouTube, like as a teen. This was a guy I went to school with. And I was like, wow. I was like, how are you doing that? He was telling me he was doing it on YouTube. And then we started talking about this thing we seen about Amazon, selling products on Amazon. And I was like, wow, this is a real good opportunity. So I started doing the maths. Like, how many products would I need to sell to make this? And I started looking into it more. And this is where my curiosity developed. I was always curious since a kid. And where did it go from there then? So then from there, I remember I was like, you know what? I'm going to start this while I'm in college. So didn't have much money. My uncle actually gave me €1,000 to fund this. He saw that I was passionate. I had no money. I was working a part-time job in like Top Man, and started that business. And I remember I was so sold that I was going to do it from like the age of like 17. I remember going downstairs to my ma, and I was like, Ma, I'm going to be a millionaire. I was like, I have it figured out. I was like, all I have to do is sell this amount of products. I have it sussed. Like, Ma, trust me. And she's like, oh yeah, all right, Callum, whatever. And I was like, no, like I'm dead serious. I was like, I know how to make a million euro. So from there, then that business quickly didn't work out. As you do.
Yeah.
One sec. So that business didn't work out, which obviously you have great intentions at the start. And funnily enough, that wasn't the first time I made money online. Now, when I actually think back, the first time I made money online, and it's interesting that you asked me this question, was back in 2010 or 2009, when Call of Duty was prominent. I was making YouTube background designs, and I was selling them to people who uploaded their Call of Duty videos, like, professional gamers. And I was designing
Like banner images and stuff like that.
yeah, back when YouTube had the layout. Do you remember that old layout?
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
So I was selling back then. I would reach out to professional gamers, people in like things like optic gaming, stuff like this, and I would do speed arts. So I was uploading speed arts, and then I would drive like these gamers to my channel, and they would request that I do them a background.
No
so
way.
this was like 40 euro or $40 on PayPal. I was like, what age would I have been then? I must have been about 97, 10. I would have been about 13. And I was taking these PayPal payments. But now when I think back, that was probably the first steps towards all this. But then I went to college, came across Amazon. That didn't work out. And that's just part of the process. And then I had many business ventures since then. It was a learning curve, learned sales, learned marketing. And I guess like I could talk about that for so long, but we don't have all day. So I don't want to go into how that business went and this business went. Maybe as we ask questions, I can give references to that. But yeah, man, it was a journey to get to where I am today. And now, Roche Marketing Group is doing amazing things. Again, what we do is we help businesses get mainly owner operated, service based. I find that's my sweet spot. But I have so much success as well with selling products online, and that's what we do with the influencer business. But I really am passionate about sales, marketing, and helping people, man. As I said to you when I came here, so many people have this misconception and they lie to themselves about business, and they're afraid of sales. And I said to you earlier, you have a responsibility as a business owner. If you know you're great at what you do, and you don't pitch your service, you don't pitch your offer to somebody, you don't try sell them on that, you're doing them a disservice if you know you can genuinely help them. So what's going to happen is if you don't push the sale, they're going to go to somebody else who doesn't do a great job the way you could. They're going to get poor performance. They're probably going to pay them more, and they're not going to walk away satisfied. So it's on you to make sure, if you know you can help them, to get in front of them. Like there's this whole thing about sales. I don't want to be salesy and all. Like, man, you've got an obligation to actually, if you're good at what you do, man, you've got to provide that to people who need it. So guys, do away with the fear of sales. If you're good at what you do, that trumps everything.
I love that. What you're touching on there is essentially a very robust principle that goes deeper than sales, marketing, money, business, all this kind of stuff. Because some people listen to maybe a conversation like that or what you've just explained there, and they immediately are like, it's very superficial and shallow. He's all about the money. He's all about that lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. But when you said this to me earlier on, I was smiling because that principle, from a medical perspective, we drew loads of parallels. That principle of your obligation to sell yourself to other people in order to be able to help them is real. And sometimes people use it as a bit of a cop-out because they say this thing, they don't actually really mean it. But from a medical perspective, obviously working in the medical industry, it was the same thing. We knew we were really good at what we did. And Dr. Sam, who I work, was like one of the most amazing medical professionals I've ever met in my entire life. So the conflict there we had was like selling this stuff to people because it almost felt dirty trying to convince someone to buy a product. And we were like, we were trying to convince this person to do something, but we know we can really help them. And that's what you're talking about there, is that principle. You can actually help that person.
And, people have all these, I always see it with the internet marketing stuff, and it's applicable across a lot of industries. People have these scripts, and they're like, before they hop on the phone, it's like, oh, I'm getting nervous. And why are you nervous? The goal shouldn't be to genuinely hop on the phone and just try sell something to somebody or outright do it. The goal is to understand, okay, do you have a problem? Let me understand you. Like, good sales is about understanding. It's basically like finding out what's wrong And if you have the solution, it's like a doctor, you're prescribing it. But it's good sales is about understanding, asking the right questions, figuring out where you are right now. What's the biggest challenge? Where do you want to be? And if you're a good fit for that, it's just as simple as, hey, could I tell you about how I can help you with that? And then, if it's a good fit, here's what we offer. I think you could really benefit from it, and so on. It doesn't have to be like Jordan Belfort cold call type thing in the room.
Yeah.
Man, good sales is about just understanding, asking the right questions, and if you genuinely can help people, you do have that responsibility to make sure that they work with you.
Yeah, 100%.
That's my thoughts.
So why do you think then, like, I'll use me as an example, right? So I'm an entrepreneur now. I have a business. I sell podcast coaching. I sell recording, production services. That was a one-liner, by the way. It doesn't have me 5 minutes anymore. I have a massive resistance to that Jordan Belfort style of sales. I hate sales. I have a resistance to it internally. I feel dirty. Why do you think, and I am an example of many, many people who run small businesses, people who run cafes or who have passion-based services where they really enjoy what they're doing and they like that thing, and then they get into the business element and they feel bad about selling it. Where do you think that comes from in a person?
I think it's the stigma that salespeople are bad.
Yeah.
I think there's a stigma around making money is evil. I think there's a thing if, so many people, especially, they think, oh, that fella has a load of money. Like, Jesus Christ, he's not.
Done something
he's not good. People who are rich, there's this stigma that they're automatically evil, and it's crazy. But with regards to the sales, obviously, number one, it's something uncomfortable. It's, people don't want to do it. People hate asking hard questions.
Yeah.
And that's what good sales is. Good sales is asking the hard questions, doing the things you don't want to do. And to be honest, maybe the reason why most people don't want to do it is everyone has these aspirations of making big money, but it's not easy. It's not easy to press on and do things that are hard. And if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Everyone would be making a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
So it genuinely, first of all, it is hard. It's not easy. That's number one. And number two is, I think it's the perception that sales is bad.
Yeah.
But really, you've got to flip that on its mind, or you've got to flip that mindset on its head and realize that, okay, if I actually don't provide them, they're going to go somewhere else, and some fella down the road he's going to do a terrible job. So if you're great at what you do, man, you got to realize, like, it's an obligation. It's an obligation.
Yeah.
Regardless of how you feel.
That's powerful.
So I think it's more about, if you're so passionate about what you do and you can help people, you have a duty. You have you got to get in front of them.
Yeah.
So that's the way I do it, man. Sometimes at the start, I remember when I first got into sales, I'd be sitting there, and I remember I was working for this property investor. It's worth millions, and I was like head of sales, and I was only learning sales at the time. And before these were warm leads. These weren't even cold calls. And I'd be ringing them up, and like my hands would be shaking. I'm like, oh my God. And then I just realized, okay, if I just press the button, like, and it starts ringing, I'm going to have to say something.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. And then I started investing more. I started investing more in sales, and I realized, like, don't go into all this stuff with the intention of, like, I came in here today. I could say to you straight away, Dan, listen, man, I can help you with so much. But, like, I got to understand where you're at. I got to, you know what I mean? And if for a good fit, then we can do something. And that's what I realized. Don't go into whatever business you're in, just go in with the idea of, okay, I want to figure out what's wrong. And if we're a good fit, we can do something. And then another thing, I guess, in terms of the sales stuff, I found there was 4 things that I knew when it was right to go and ask someone to do business with me back then. And I used to write them down. I checked them off, and it was pain, need, urgency, and belief. And those were the 4 things. So if someone was in pain, they needed help, it was critical that they probably do something about it now. It was my obligation then to make them believe that I could do it. And if they checked all those boxes, then I would ask. But if they didn't, I would probably not do it.
Yeah.
And I would probably propose the idea, but I wouldn't be this is the whole thing about Belfort and all these people. It's like, if they say no, you've got to get them into a corner, and then you hit them with this line. And then you got to, if they say, oh, well, I got to think about it, you hit them with this line and follow the script. It's like, Jesus Christ, is that really how you want to do business?
Yeah.
If now's not the right time, I'm like, okay, good. When is the right time? I'll touch base with you again. It should be easy. It shouldn't be pressured.
There shouldn't be that resistance.
I call it the close yourself cycle. I like to basically, I don't want to convince someone to do business with me, man. You've got to close yourself on doing business with me. You know?
It's interesting because that's how I've always intrinsically felt that whatever I worked at, I always tried to give as much information and value and power to the person, and then trust that they will make a decision if I've properly represented myself and I can definitely help you. Here's what I can do. Here's some free information. Here's some power. Here's decisions that you can make. One of those decisions is you want to work with me. I always felt way more comfortable with that than you need to work with me. Sign on the dotted line right now. And because I roll in a lot of wellness, holistic fitness circles, a lot of these people have a lot of value to give. And there's a huge resistance to the corporate capitalistic kind of, there's this big evil image of what it is to sell and be a big business and do all this kind of stuff. And it's very limiting then, because as you've just said, a lot of these people that I know, and I'm not thinking of a specific person here, but a lot of these type of people, me included in this group of people, really want to help people and feel like we're not helping them if we become one of these evil big salespeople. But actually, we're not helping anybody then, because in my experience, and I explained this earlier on, there's a huge collection of individuals in this country specifically, and I'm sure elsewhere as well, who are incredible at what they do, and they're changing lives and they're helping people, but nobody knows about them. So they're not helping as many people as they potentially could if they had a better system to put themselves out there and to sell themselves a little bit better. They'd actually help more people.
Sales, people have to realize that. Sales, so you could be the best at what you do, but if nobody knows who you are, it's not worth the shit.
Yeah.
Sales is a contact sport. Think about that. Sales is a contact sport. How many people can I get in front of?
I like that.
How many people can I touch?
The
more contacts you make, so contacts equal contracts, right? That's what it's all about. Sales is a contact sport. Money follows attention. And anyone listening, that's a big thing. Money does follow attention. And I was at an event a while ago. This guy was showing the Google Trend data on when he first started out and then his bank balance. And the Google Trend data correlated directly to his bank account in terms of growth. The more attention he got on Google, the more people searched for him over time, it correlated directly to it. And that's the truth, man. Money does follow attention. And that's the problem right now. There's so many people out there who are amazing at what they do, but maybe they're not good at sales. Maybe they're not good at marketing. And the thing is as well, Dan, this is the crazy thing. It's so much harder nowadays to get attention than it ever was before. And you might think that's crazy because we've got social media, but man, attention is very hard to get nowadays. You're competing with the stuff that's going on with the war. You're competing with all this other stuff that's on the news. You're competing with
Roche Marketing Group, who are experts at getting attention.
You're competing with Logan Paul. Man, you got to, in order to get people to listen to you, you have to break through the noise. So many people, they're afraid of this political correctness. When I really believe it's just got to do with self-esteem. It's just like they don't want to say it because maybe their self-esteem is a little bit lower. But man, you've got to forget about that. And that's when you've got to realize what are the priorities here. Okay, if money follows attention, what am I willing to do? Personally, what I'm willing to do, man, I'm willing to do anything except for a few things that make me look really bad.
Yeah.
But man, I'll scream from the hilltops. I'll do whatever because I know I'm competing with the news. I'm competing with Donald Trump. I'm competing with all these people. That's all it is, man. We're all in the attention game.
Yeah, and I think what complicates that even more is a lot of people who are very good at getting attention who don't necessarily have the actual product or value or ethical, moral ground that, say, someone like you or me would have. And it makes me a little bit nervous that I'll be perceived as somebody who doesn't, I'm just another, no, I'm not, it's not a thing about influencers, but to take the influencer, the person who's very good with a personal brand who doesn't actually have a good message or a good service or a good product or something of value to offer at the end of it. They're in it for the influence because they make money from the influence as opposed to giving value to people.
Yeah, man, that whole thing of influencers, that word.
Yeah,
it's
a dirty word.
Yeah, I don't like, what do you do? Oh, I'm an influencer. Like,
what do you influence?
Yeah, what do you really do?
Yeah.
If someone goes onto your Instagram and they leave your Instagram feeling worse about themselves because of comparison, you're not an influencer. You know, if that's what you're doing, if people are going away feeling self-conscious, like most people are, you know, at the end of the day, isn't it the old saying, comparison is the thief of all joy?
Yeah, fact.
And that's what's happening with so many of these influencers. If that's how people are leaving your Instagram or your TikTok, listen, man, you should probably reconsider what you're doing, because that's not good.
So how do you, because I've had this conversation with a couple of people actually, not from a social media and a business point of view, but from a business point of view, say for example, because a lot of what we're talking about here is fitness influencing as well, because it's quite popular at the moment. Say you are a fitness coach, personal trainer, strength and conditioning coach, fitness business owner, gym owner, whatever, and you need this attention that we spoke about to promote your business because you have a very, very good service. You're very good at what you do. You're very attentive. Your clients love you. So you've got all the building blocks are there. You're not an influencer, but you're competing with influencers. So I'm a young guy or girl looking at Instagram, and I want to be influenced positively. I want to be healthier and better, whatever that looks like to you. I want to lose weight, gain muscle, perform better at my sport. So when I go on Instagram, let's just use Instagram as the example, or TikTok, I'm seeing all of these people in great shape, all the influencers who are doing a great job with the marketing. But I feel worse when I go away because they look better than me and all that kind of stuff. As that business owner who could actually help this young person, how do I compete with all of that? Because that's really attractive. All these really attractive people doing stuff online with millions of followers. They look like the people to go to. How, as a business owner, do I compete with that? Like, what am I doing here?
I'll tell you, if you're a, let's say you've got a fitness business, right? And, you know, fitness is so saturated right now. What I would do is 4 things, right? This is what I would do.
Get your pen and paper, people.
Right? First thing is give value, right? You know, talk about stuff. So essentially what you would want to be doing is, who's your ideal client? So you got to understand, who is it you want, right? Number 2, what do they want? So who it is you want, you got to get very clear on that. What do they want? Not what, you got to be clear as well, not what you want. So many people think they know what people want. Like, what does someone actually want? When you figure out that, so who it is you want, what do they want, how do they get what they want? So if, let's say, for example, who it is I want is someone who, you know, went through the lockdowns or put on a bit of excess weight. What do they want? They want to lose the weight. They want to feel good about themselves again. They want to look in the mirror and they want to be happy, right? How do they get what they want? Well, as a fitness expert, you will know that. You will know how they do that. So it's your job then to show them in, I would say, 3 steps through your content, right? Step 1, 2, and 3, you go from side A to side B. How do you bridge that gap? So that's the information you provide on social media. So like, in terms of, let's say, in the marketing world, you want to get more clients, let's say. What I would say is, number 1 is publish more content, right? I would say build trust and goodwill, and I would say make more offers. If you do those 3 things, you're going to get more clients. If you post content that, you know, that helps them, you're going to build that trust and goodwill, and you make offers, you're going to get more clients. So to break it down into a 4-step process, for anyone who has a pen and paper, what I would say is, give value no matter what the industry is. That automatically creates goodwill and trust. So, you know, Dan helps me. He's always telling me, you know, he's maybe breaking common beliefs that you can't have a takeaway at the weekend. Then the 3rd point is make offers. And the 4th point is do it frequently. And what happens is, if you do that enough, if I help you enough, if I give you enough value, I will create that goodwill. You'll start to believe, geez, Callum's a good guy. Callum wants what's best for me. He knows what he's talking about. And he has a fitness business there that might possibly be able to help me. Then I make you an offer. And I do that frequently. You might not buy today, okay? But eventually, if I stay in front of you and keep repeating those things, if you need what I have, you're going to fall in 110%.
Okay.
So give value, create goodwill, make offers, and do it frequently. And the key point is make offers. If you make no offers, you don't make any money. The amount of money you make is directly correlated to the amount of offers you make to the marketplace. 110%. You make no offers, you're not going to make any money. And you don't need to, this is where the sales stuff comes in. You don't even need to be like, oh, go buy my stuff. If you don't buy from me, you're stupid. Like that stuff's crazy. You don't need to be like hardcore sales. What I would say is, like, let's say you're making content, just drop oh, by the way, before I forget, if you're actually interested in working 1-to-1 with me and you want to shortcut the process, you want You want to kind of avoid the trial and error. I'm actually running a program next week. Drop me a DM. Okay, so where were we? See how subtle that is?
Yeah.
And it's not salesy. It's like,
Yeah,
we're in the middle of giving value. And I'm like, oh, by the way, before I forget, it's as simple as that. You don't need to be this hard salesman. And people, man, as people, we like to buy things. People love to buy. So why not give them what they want?
I love that. And in your experience, does that 4-step model for a small business owner who's not taking his top off and showing a 6-pack abs like an influencer, does that work in this very, very loud and saturated industry? And my second question is, what is the most common mistake in that process, or the thing that you see people not doing? Is it the offers piece, or is it one of the other parts of the pieces as a small fitness business owner, for example?
So first question was?
Does that, in your experience, have you seen that process work in this super saturated space? So you have all these like fitness influencers. Is that enough to break through and be, because like you said earlier on, you don't need to have everybody. You don't need to steal those million views to sell your product. It's not a competition, but it is saturated. So is that model enough for me as a business owner to break through?
Yeah, but you've got it. Like, man, business isn't easy.
Yeah,
business isn't easy,
true,
man.
yeah.
It's competitive. It's dog eat dog. It really is. So I can give you the frameworks.
Yeah.
I can give you the frameworks. Will it work for everybody? No. You know, that's I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I could say that to you. You could have success. I could give it to somebody. And if you don't have the determination, like so many people, what'll happen is they'll get all the information, but they just don't do anything with it. And we're competing with each other. At the end of the day, there's other people who want the spot where you are. There's other people who want the business. So you got to make sure, it all comes back down to attention. You got to implement this. You got to be creative. It's not an easy journey. So I couldn't say you take what I said and you're guaranteed to make money. It really will come down to you. I can give you the blueprint, man. I have everything. You need. It's just, are you willing to do it? And for so long, even the likes of myself, when I was younger, I had all the information I probably needed. But, you know, did I have the urgency that I have now? Do I have the grit, the determination? You know, it's a lot different now. And the second question was?
In those 4 steps that you've outlined there,
yeah,
what is the most common mistake you see people make?
Okay, that's a great question. So everyone will create content and give value. That's the first step. A lot of people do that. That's all good. That's the easy part, right? Building the trust and goodwill. If you're a good person, and people, like, just be yourself. Be yourself. We talk about Joe Rogan, for example. Joe Rogan has got to where he is because he talks about what he wants to talk about. That's what's going to make or break. I'm just back from London, as I said, with Toy Lopez, Rob Moore, and there's a big emphasis on personal branding. And that's going to, like, people buy people at the end of the day. I could copy exactly what you're saying. I could have a funnel that looks exactly like yours. Like, man, that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I'm buying from you because you're Dan. You know what I'm saying? I'm coming here because it's Dan. I could copy everything you say. So the content is the easy part. That can be replicated. Building a genuine relationship is something that I can't take from you. But the biggest part where people fall off is making offers. Everyone forgets to make the offers. Nobody wants to make an offer.
Because that's the dirty bit.
Yeah, that's the dirty bit, man. That's the whole thing about sales. And that's why you've got to break that limiting belief and say, you know what? I don't get in front of people, they're going to be in a worse situation than if I had made them an offer. So it's on you, man. You got to realize it's your responsibility. You've got an obligation. Get in front of those people. If you know you can help someone and you don't, I think that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think that's a bad thing.
Yeah, no, fair play. And you said something, and I love it. You said something in just before we answered that question. You can give people the information, but the difference is the people who implement that information, and you can't guarantee anything. And the reason I love that, I really respect that as well, is because that's not generally what you hear from people who are in the world of marketing and all this kind of stuff. Well, I have the program, it's going to take you to a 7-figure business. That's not how it works. And why I love what you've just said is because the world I come from, the health, wellness, fitness, performance world, it's the same thing. Everyone knows this shit. Everyone knows you should eat better, sleep better, do Wim Hof breathing, drink lemon water. Everyone knows all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody fucking does it. And I don't do it. And this is why I'm passionate about this podcast, because I've had, like you, have had all that information. We all have Google, we all have YouTube, we all have access to limitless information, good and bad, I suppose. We don't do it at all. And that's the difference. And I notice, just to finish the point, I noticed the biggest difference between people who ever had success with me as a physio, with Sam in the clinic, with me as a podcast coach, is the people who actually do 5% of the stuff that you give them to do are the people who have like miraculous improvements and changes because they implement. And I noticed that in my life. If I've read all these books, and listen to all these podcasts, when I make one decision to do one small thing, my life changes. I'm like, wow, all I had to do was actually do it.
100%. And when you start actually taking action, man, the hardest part is actually the first step.
Yeah, breaking the inertia.
Yeah, it's like breaking the inertia, taking the first step. That's usually the first part. And I experienced that even when I was starting out. You know, I was consumed with education. I had all the information. I remember one day, my girlfriend said to me, she was like, okay, you've got all the information now. When are you going to do something? And it kind of hit me. I was like, shit. I was like, when am I going to do something? I was like, yeah, like, you know what I mean? How about I start now and figure the rest out later? Because you're not going to have it all figured out. You know, at the end of the day, people say it takes money to make money. You got to have all this, you got to have all this knowledge. It doesn't take money to make money. You can start with nothing. It takes courage to make money. That's a big one, man. It doesn't take money to make money. It takes courage. No matter like whether it's you have an existing business, you're starting a business, whether you're trying to multiply capital with ads, man, it takes courage. So you want to advance. You got the business here right now. You want to grow this. It takes courage. It's going to take investment from you. You're going to have to do things that you probably didn't want to do. You're going to have to put up money that maybe you want to hold on to. That's what it takes to make money, man. It takes courage.
Mm. And you mentioned these guys, the likes of Rob Moore, Ty Lopez, and anyone who's not familiar with these people, they're very, very prominent in the business world. They will be, I suppose, business influencers, marketing, social media, that kind of thing. Success leaves clues. One of these phrases here all the time. You're meeting these people, you're talking to these people, you're doing this yourself. Are these what are some of the common themes that you see with the people who are successful? Because I asked this about, like, sometimes you meet elite athletes and you meet elite coaches and you meet all these different people, and it's the same answer I get. So I'm interested to hear when you meet these types of people who are operating at that level.
Yeah.
What are the common trends and themes you see with these kind of people?
So number one is they know that there's always room for improvement. They're never satisfied. That's number one. They're forever a student. They're constantly networking. Like, I'm constantly networking, investing in themselves heavily. They're very certain about the outcome. In terms of, it's not a question even with myself. It's not a matter of like, you know, if I'm gonna be successful or if this is gonna pull off, if I'm gonna get the deal. It's just a matter of when and how. And it's constantly, as you're on this journey, you're meeting people who are better than you. One thing I noticed was, you know, I spent probably 70, 80 grand traveling the world, going to America, networking with these people, you know, exposing myself to things that I couldn't even afford to do. For example, you know, now I have a bit more money, like, you know, the business is obviously more successful. So now the things I expose myself to, that's where I went to Ty Lopez at the weekend. You know, that's where I go to these things because I want to pay to see, number one, how these guys are living their lives and just get accustomed to that. Even if I don't, like, let's say, like, for example, you know, I was away in Dominican Republic not too long ago. You know, went all out when I went. Reason why, I wanted to go to the top places. I wanted to live the best way because it might have cost money, but I want to get used to that. So I guess really, to answer your question, sorry I can go like so far
This is
away.
what this is all about, man.
But man, it's exposing yourself to people who are better than you. And like when you're around these people, it's like you're just forced to level up. You get the knowledge and, you know, these guys are taking action. So you mentioned something earlier about like accountability. That's a big thing, man. Creating a circle as well. People who can hold you accountable. If you're starting out, I would recommend even, you know, when you're setting out your goals, get your girlfriend, get whoever it is, whoever's important in your life to hold you accountable. Because that's a fine line. These guys have all the answers. A lot of the stuff they were talking about, I already knew. I'm going there and they're more than likely there to network. Yeah, man, it's crazy. There's so much reasons why they're there to answer the question. There's so much reasons.
Yeah, and a lot of what you're talking about is very familiar to me from other parts of my experience. Growth mindset. Always be in a growth mindset.
Growth mindset.
What you just described there.
Yeah, sorry. To sum that up, it's just growth.
Yeah.
Sorry,
you're never satisfied because there's always more to learn. And people are familiar with these phrases. Always be the dumbest person in the room, because it means you've so much to learn.
It's funny you say that. Funny you say that. When I was talking to Rob Moore, I seen him. I was like, "Hey, Rob, surprised to see you at this event," because he's always like on keynote stages.
Did you know Rob previously? Was this the first time?
No. But like, that's another thing, man. I don't go on like, I'm just as important as Rob.
Yeah,
I'm just as important as anyone else there. When you're growing up, there's this whole thing of like, don't. People who feel entitled, that's not good, But listen, man, people who are getting ahead, man, they feel just as important as anyone else in the room. I'm meant to be here. You're no better than me, So I just said to him, I said, "Hey, Rob, what's going on, man? I'm surprised to see you here. Usually you're talking on stages." And he's like, his exact words were, "Yeah, but you know what? Sometimes it's good to be in the audience. Sometimes it's good to be in the audience." And I was like, wow, that's, it gave me perspective. Someone who's running 50, 70, 100 million. He's just in this room with me because he just wants to learn, you know? So I forget what the question was.
So do I, but this is really good. And I want to make another point.
Growth mindset.
It's growth mindset. It's the whole success leaves clues and the growth mindset. And you see this with anybody who's really good at what they do. I mentioned this a while ago. I did a post on Instagram about the expert's path. And I heard this quote and it was really interesting to me, because you're only an expert, if you are even an expert, as long as you're on the path. You can be an expert and not be on the path, not be continuing to grow, not staying humble and present and trying to continuously improve upon yourself. And now this is a controversial thing as well. I don't think you need to constantly be a better person all the time, but it's about always finding areas in your life where you can be a better version of what you already are. So some people resist that, and I know why they resist it, because it's challenging to say to people that we have to keep growing. And some people are like, "No, you don't. You're okay the way you are." And my answer always is, you're absolutely okay the way you are. But do you not want more from your life? Do you want more happiness? Do you want more connection? Do you want more community?
Yeah, man. I think there's a lot of misconceptions nowadays. There's so many beliefs, like even with regards to that stuff. We're fed all these lies when we're young, like, money isn't everything. That's a classic example. Yeah. Money isn't everything. Like who's making this stuff up? Like, honestly, and like, yeah, money's not everything, but like, it's a fact. Like, we need money to get around. Like, oh, you're fine the way you are. Like, who says? Like, what are you telling me what I am? You know what I mean? Like, all these limiting beliefs, all these external opinions coming in. Listen, man, you do you. Figure out what you want with your life, right? Like, have a sit down. The most important conversation is the one you're going to have at the end of the day when you're lying in bed. I challenge somebody to lie in bed, no phone. I spoke about this with my girlfriend the other day. She was saying people think they're spending time with themselves, but they're on their phones in bed for a half an hour. You're not really spending time by yourself. She's like, put the phone away, lie there for a half an hour, and self-evaluate. And then you'll really get to know yourself. You'll figure out, okay, am I happy where I am? Like, ask yourself a few questions, and you won't be long about getting them answers.
Callum Roche, welcome to my world. You're stepping into my world here. I talk about this all the time. I love it. And it's a quote, and I finally got the author of the quote. It's Blaise Pascal. He's a French philosopher. He said that the root of all man's problems are his inability to sit quietly by himself for 5 minutes. I speak to people like Pat Divilly. I had Niall Graham on recently. It'll be out by the time this episode's out, about going inside, going into yourself and not externalizing everything and being distracted constantly by everything. So I observe myself, not necessarily now anymore to the same degree, but I observe myself as a younger person, completely terrified of having 5 seconds where there wasn't something going on, because I'd be forced to actually think to myself, am I happy here? And I didn't want to have the answer to that question because I knew what it was and it wasn't good. So you go to the bathroom, you got your phone, you're in the car, turn something on the radio so you don't have to think. You sit down before bed and it's Netflix and up until the second that you fall asleep, there's shit going on. The second you wake up, you're on it again, because if you don't do that, you're forced to have to answer that question for yourself. And the answer for a huge amount of people, in my experience, because I get given out to sometimes by saying a lot of people, but in my experience, huge amount of people, the answer to that question is no, I'm not happy. And just to clarify what I'm trying to say here, I am not saying everyone quit your job now and we'll all go be entrepreneurs. It's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying what you've just alluded to there is something I'm so passionate about. It's giving yourself the time and space to actually think Am I happy with who I am, where I'm going, and what I'm doing? And when you do that, all of these other people that you've just mentioned saying, what are you doing? This is not the right way, and chasing money and all that kind of stuff, they become irrelevant to you, because all that's relevant now to you is you. And to bring us to the next point, which is a lovely segue, because we spoke about it earlier, about putting your own mask on ahead of other people. I have a mission that I want to help people, and I want to be a good father, and I want to be a good partner, and I want to be a good community member, and I want to contribute. But I cannot do any of those things if I am not okay in myself, if I'm not happy or content or on the right path or thinking about what I actually want or clear on my vision or direction. No fucking way can I help. I can't help my clients, can't help my kids.
And that's it. And some people take it as selfish. Some people might say, oh, look at him, full of himself, selfish. Man, opinions are cheap. Opinions are cheap. That's first of all. And then secondly, man, you don't help yourself, you're not going to be able to help anybody. And that's the way it is. It's like, as you said, on the airplane. You got to put your own mask on first before you can help anybody else. If it means you've got to put in 2, 3, 4 years of work where maybe you have to sacrifice some things, but in order to circle back around then and help those in your family and maybe your community, if that's what it takes, and you should do it. You should do it. You know, everyone. Nobody wants to sacrifice anything nowadays. There's a big fear of being judged by others. You know what I mean? Like, oh, how will people view me? Listen, man, like, we're only here for a very short period of time. If you worry too much about what your next door neighbor thinks or whoever thinks, like, why are you letting them dictate your life?
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, how would you say, how do you break that? Like, cause I don't even know how I done it. You know, I just said, you know what, man? Like, why do I care? Why do I care about what these people think? How did you go about doing that with yourself? Like?
I'm going to be really honest with you here. And as I sit here in front of you, I still struggle with it. The only difference now is I had a bit of a crisis of self. I had an internal crisis. It's like, come on, the fuck, man. Is this actually what you want? I didn't know what I wanted. I wasn't clear on it.
Yeah.
So as I sit here, I told you earlier on, I'm nearly a decade older than you. No one believed that because I look so youthful. But I'm 33 years of age and I have 2 children. And I look around regularly, even though I understand this and have studied it for a long time, and compare myself to other 33-year-olds in my position who've chosen maybe a different path and are super successful in what success is meant to look like from the outside. You know what I mean when I say that? So the cars, the houses, all that kind of stuff. And my honest attitude to this, as I sit here in front of you, again, is not everyone should, no, we shouldn't be doing that. My honest attitude is, if you're happy where you are right now, I applaud you and I commend you. But I have so much experience in the job that I did and just talking to so many people and meeting so many people and what I do now, that I really struggle to believe that I'm wrong when I say what I'm about to say here, is that the vast majority of people who are where they are supposed to be are not happy and could do with a bit of this time and space to figure out what they want. Now, I'm not saying what they want is to start a business and be an entrepreneur. I'm not saying that at all.
Listen, man, if you're happy working a job,
that's the only thing that matters.
Like, whatever, that's what makes you happy. If you want to start a business and that's what you want to do, man, this whole thing of like, you know, you got to be an entrepreneur. No, do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. You know, and so many people, they're afraid of this judgment. I said to you earlier on, like, I don't know how I done it, but my whole thing is now, man, look, love me or hate me, like, you know, at least you know me, I'm doing what I want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you gotta realize opinions are cheap. Do what's best for you. My priority for this year, and to anyone who's listening, you know, this is stuff that I think that needs to be talked about. Like, you know, I suffered in terms of like mental challenges. Like, I've been to therapy. You know what I mean? I'm actively trying to become a better person. And when I was at the therapy, one thing they said was, Callum, you're working so hard to please everybody else that you're forgetting about yourself. That's what they said. They said, you need to actually take time. Stop trying to do everything for everybody else. Stop trying to juggle everything. Sit down with yourself. You know what I mean? What's important to you in your life? Prioritize that. Made me question a lot of things, man. And it's only when you sit down with yourself and you ask those powerful questions, you really kind of understand why you're doing what you do. And I think it's very important when you understand the why. That's what, to come back to that question, I think when you understand the why, that's when you begin to realize, okay, everything else is irrelevant. You know, when you've got a kind of a strong why. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Like, it's like, if you're like, People, for example, people will give up on themselves. Everyone gives it, like, not me, but like I'm just speaking generally here.
Yeah.
Most people give up on themselves. They do, right?
Most men live lives of quiet desperation, isn't that the goal?
Most men live lives of quiet desperation.
Yeah.
Right? Most people will give up on themselves. But I'll tell you one thing. You're doing something for somebody else. Most people won't give up on their partner.
Yeah.
Most people won't give up on their kids. Have a reason bigger than yourself. That's a big one. Don't be doing it just for yourself. Why are you doing it? Because you're not going to give up on your kids. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We're getting into some really deep stuff here. I'm gonna tie some of the points you made there together, because it's a great way of illustrating this. Sometimes when we say stuff like this, I say this quite a lot, when we say stuff like this, it can come across as very, very arrogant. When we say stuff like, you have to focus on yourself, you have to do these things, you have to take care of yourself, you have to have a why and all that kind of stuff. But you've actually made a very good point there, is that I agree with you that most, and I get in trouble for saying most because maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. Most,
listen, man, say it how it is.
Yeah, I don't think I'm wrong, but I'm trying to be very respectful here. Not everybody is unhappy, but I do think most people could be more happy, and I'm passionate about that. I could be more happy. I could be more content.
Me too.
Yeah, you too. So what you said there is really powerful, because most people will say that. A lot of people will say that, and a lot of coaches will say that. But you clarified there as well that the vast majority of these people are so busy thinking about other things. It's not that they're ignorant or stupid. We're not, as people, ignorant or stupid. We're focused on raising our kids and paying our bills, and we get caught up in all of that external madness.
Yes.
So it's not the fact that we're stupid or ignorant. It's the fact that we're caught up trying to help other people. And I think the point that I'm definitely fascinated by, and that you're making quite well here, is it's very hard to help somebody else from a position of sadness or weakness or financial pressure. If you're under financial pressure, let's make this really simple. How the hell are you going to help anybody else? If you're financially secure, you're in a great position to help other people. And that's only one element of this. If you're emotionally secure, if you're physically secure, if you can't walk because you're crippled, from poor metabolic health because you haven't taken care of yourself, yes. I do understand there's other things that could happen. You're not going to be able to play with your kids or go for a walk with your partner. So you can't improve or help their lives or be part of their lives. So you have a responsibility, but the motive for most people that I know is really good as well. So when I make comments like, I think most people are not necessarily happy, I'm not trying to be derogatory here, because I'm one of these people.
Yeah, man.
And I get distracted by this shit all the time.
Of course.
But you made a really important point at the end there, is that most people are motivated to actually help. Most people are good and they have really good motivations, but they're not very clear on their why or clear on how they can actually help those people by taking care of themselves.
And social media is a way for those people to just not have to confront that.
Oh, I love it, man. You're a pro. That's where we're going next.
Man,
social media world.
That's exactly why. Nobody wants to sit down and have the hard conversations with themselves. Nobody wants to sit down, look in the mirror, the accountability mirror. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When it doesn't lie. It doesn't lie. But you can go and ignore it. But you know, man, you're only here for a very short period of time. Just come face to face with yourself and just say, what do I want?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? And so be it if someone doesn't like me. This is what I want. You know what? And at the end of the day, here's a big one as well. So many people are so worried about what other people think. And I'll tell you what, newsflash to everybody. People don't think about you as much as you think they do. People don't think about you as much as you probably think they do. Yeah. So stop worrying about what other people think, because, I hate to break it to you, but most people don't think about you. Everyone cares about themselves. Big thing what I learned in business was, big breakthrough. People don't care about what I can do. They only care about what I can do for them. People don't care about you, man. They only care about what you can do for them. And that's a harsh reality. And I'm not saying nobody cares, that doesn't care about you. But what I'm saying is, man, people put themselves first. And that's just human nature. I'm guilty of it. You know what I mean? We're all guilty of it. So, stop worrying about what others think, because they're probably not worrying about you.
Yeah. It was actually an interesting social experiment I did quite recently when I was delving into the world of social media for the business.
Yeah.
I was so resistant to getting on and doing the whole... for the reasons we spoke about earlier on, like I felt dirty having to go on and do the stories thing and the talking to the camera thing, and I resisted for so long, to the point where it was actually a mentor of mine, Brian, had to coerce me into doing it. He's like, we're not going anywhere else until you start doing this thing that you say you understand but you just won't do. And I was like, oh, fuck, my mate's going to laugh at me. I'm going to be a joke. I'm going to be one of these influencers. And what you said there is the truest lesson that I learned. 99% of the people that I thought were going to slag me just didn't give a shit, just didn't care. Nobody said a negative comment towards me. No, it's not that I have thousands of people like that, but nobody said anything negative. And most of the feedback I got was positive. So most people didn't care. Nobody had a go at me. And anybody who gave me feedback was positive. And I was like, I was blown away by this.
Listen, man, the only feedback that matters is from the people who are, number one, they've got to already be doing what you want to do, or they're above. People who haven't tried it, man, win, fail, they haven't even, they're afraid to fail. They're afraid to actually take a chance on themselves. So whatever they say, that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just focus on the people who are actually doing what you want to do. You know, your friends, your family, they're going to give you opinions, even with my family and stuff. You know, they all want what's best for you, but sometimes you know, the only opinion that does matter is the ones who've already done what you want to do. And with regards to even content creation and stuff like that, and you touched on making videos, and you're probably wondering, oh, like, what if someone thinks something, or what if, you know, I get judged? And one thing I'll tell you for anyone who's starting out online, don't focus on perfection, right? Perfection will lead you to the poorhouse, 110%. I'm telling you, you've got a lovely studio here, all that. Guys, you don't need.
Not at all.
Like, obviously, if you want to set up a podcast, yeah, 100%. Obviously, we want to make it as best as possible. And a production studio of this magnitude is great. But if you're just starting out and you don't have any money, listen, man, I'm telling you, you don't need to worry about getting everything perfect. Perfection will lead you to the poorhouse. You got to be persistent, get it out there, and just get volume. It's really, in this game, it's quantity over quality in terms of when you're starting out, I believe. And that's not to say anything about this studio. I'm here, I think this is great, but so many people get stressed on this idea of perfection. Man, you don't need to be perfect. No, like, you know what I mean? Imperfect is the new perfect.
But I'm one of them, because for the longest time I did nothing. I had all these ideas, I had all the tools, I had all the gear, I had all the know-how, and I did nothing because it was never going to be perfect. And now I know, only from having done it and gone through this process, just do it. How the hell do I even know what perfect is? It's in my head. I don't know if anyone's got... I could make this the most beautiful production ever and put it out there, and no one might like it. So it's not perfect. So now it makes perfect sense to me that I have to put something out there before I even know how to change it or how to adapt it, or if I like it.
I'll tell you, I'll give you one. Number one, right? Don't try find perfection. I'll give you an example. Apple, right? This phone. I'll tell you, Apple's products aren't perfect, right? They know this isn't perfect, but they still sell it. I'll tell you how. What they do is, Apple come out, they don't say, oh, iPhone is fucked. Software update.
Yeah.
Software update. Constantly improving. They know it's not going to be perfect. What are they doing? They're constantly improving through software updates.
Yeah.
You know, they're not sitting around waiting to perfect this thing. They just improve it on the fly.
Yeah. And they've actually harnessed this whole planned obsolescence model, like, as well. They've harnessed that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Apple are the classic example. They don't say iPhone fuck. They just improve on it, and they're selling as they go, man. They're making up on the fly. Yeah. And it all comes back down to, the more content you make, the more you put out there, the more attention you get, the more offers you can make, the more people that know you. That's how you're going to make money.
And also, you get better.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're practicing.
So that's the big thing. That's the big thing. You know what I mean? How are you meant to get better if you don't start putting it out there? You're not going to be perfect right off the bat. Man, I remember when I first started out, I made a 7-minute video once. It took me 24 hours. Took me 24 hours to make a 7-minute video. That's crazy.
Yeah.
7-minute video, 24 hours. Man, that's insane. And then I just said to myself, why am I going through all this stress? This is insane. I'm just going to hit the button, put it up there. And you know what the crazy thing was? I was only getting like 10 views. No one was even watching it. And I'm like, you know, I'm just going to put this out there. And then the more you put it out there, the more you realize everything we just said. Nobody really cares.
Yeah. Did you ever read the book, The War of Art?
No.
It speaks about this resistance that we have. And part of it is paralysis by analysis. We're overanalyzing. Everything has to be perfect, so we do fucking nothing. But this resistance to do And again, it's nicely linked because if you don't have a good why, a good sense of clarity, you haven't sat with yourself, it's really hard to overcome this resistance because you've no real motivation to do it. But this idea of resistance, the book is specifically about writers, but you can use it for any creative, building a business, YouTube, podcast, whatever, is that doing that first step is usually obviously the hardest thing to do. But once you do it, your brain learns to effectively overcome that resistance. And actually, Andrew Huberman's talking about the opposite of that recently enough, is that stopping yourself from doing something. So there's two sides to this, right? So one is overcoming the resistance. If I want to create that 7-minute YouTube video, the hardest thing to do is that first second, is to press record in the first. Once you do it, you're in the flow, you roll, you get it done. It might not be perfect, you put it out there, but you could spend 23 of those 24 hours just thinking about pressing that fucking button.
That's why when I said earlier on, when I done my first sales call, just had to press
the button.
Just press the button because the phone's ringing. I've got to do it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the first day I made that first sales call, terrible. I had so many people fuck off. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse, by the way.
No, you're fucking not. No.
But
you can say whatever you want to.
First time I made a sales call, terrible. People hanging up, delete my number.
Yeah.
Fuck off. I don't want what you want. And I'm there, like, man, I'm terrible at this. Now, man, it's crazy like how far I've come in terms of, I wouldn't have got to where I am now with sales without going through 500, 600, 1,000 calls of like learning how to actually deal with people. And it's, as you said, it's only through that experience of actually just pressing record, pressing the dial button, and putting in the hours. There's no substitute really, is there? Like,
and that's a cliche that's unfortunately
I
hate by people.
I hate using cliches, but like sometimes
most cliches are true, man.
Most cliches are true.
And this goes back to what we said. Most people know most of the stuff that you said already. Like and most of the stuff that I say. And from a medical context, most people know what the doctor says. Most people know. People aren't stupid. People are very informed.
Yep.
But don't do it. That's the key. And that's what the common trend, and you've said it today, and everyone I speak to says the same thing. That's the common trend. That's what holds people back. And it's usually get out of your own way, another cliche, but it's usually you holding you back. The war of art, same thing. It's internal, intrinsic resistance. It's not, there's no good model for overcoming that. Now, someone like you, or a professional athlete, for example, has built a system and a model to help them overcome that. You've done this so many times now that I'm going to press dial. They're going to answer. I'm going to have this conversation. Yeah. I'm going to figure out what their pain points are. And you know that. So now you're comfortable with your system, so there's less resistance for you.
But you know what the big thing is? I found sometimes you have to put yourself in a position where you're forced to deliver.
Yeah.
And it's part of even what I do with marketing. I've got to be world class at what I do, because I make such bold statements. People are like, "Yeah, I want to do business with you."
Back them up.
I'm like, "Oh shit, I've got to do this now. I've got to actually deliver on what I'm saying."
Yeah.
And it's only because I'm forced. I put myself in this position where, okay, there's no other option here. And it's the same with everything else, man. Put yourself in a position, get yourself some big problems. That's what I would recommend. Create problems for yourself. You know what I mean? To the point where you're forced to deliver. And man, if you say you can do what you can do, or you want to get to where you want to go, you're gonna find out pretty fast if it's something that you want to pursue, if you're willing to deal with what it really takes.
Yeah,
if you want to go through that. So I would say get yourself some problems and force yourself to deliver if you struggle with that. You know what I mean?
That's a really interesting way of putting that. Get yourself some problems, because I know you're a big Rogan fan as well, as am I. And it's something that he's been consistent with, and that I didn't realize was in me, and it comes out a lot. Work away there if you want.
Looking at them cookies,
have a nice
man.
little treat. I baked them myself. Yeah.
Did you?
No, I didn't. No.
They look good, man. That's another thing. Prymal Pro has a bakery too.
Don't tell everybody that, because I'll have to put nice treats out for everyone now.
I won't chew close to the mic.
ASMR. This concept of get yourself some problems. If we don't have challenges, if we can't select healthy challenges for ourselves and put them in our own way, we will find what are generally unhealthy challenges for ourselves. And I'm a firm believer in, especially now with the struggles people have with their psychological health and wellness.
I know what you're going to say here.
Yeah, that we're creating problems ourselves, and I'm not taking away from these problems, by the way, just to clarify, but if we don't decide the challenges we put in front of ourselves, if we don't, I often think about it like a diesel car. Sometimes you need to load a diesel car. A draft horse needs to work. Jordan Peterson talks about this as well. You need to put stuff in, if you can consciously put stuff in front of yourself that's going to challenge you, but you know you're going to grow and evolve from that, that stops you from spending all of your time on problems that are not they're going to challenge you psychologically, but you're not going to grow. You're going to shrink inside yourself and become anxious and become a little bit more sad and less content and happy. You have to be conscious and decide to do those things.
Yeah, I'll tell you one. January 1st, I think this was 2 or 3 years ago. Me and a friend were of this idea of, you know what, let's get ourselves some big problems. Like I want to make shit hard. So like I can be like basically it's kind of similar to David Goggins, you know David Goggins?
Yeah, I know David. I don't know personally, but
so like I want to do hard shit, so then like anything that pops up in my life
it's fucking easy.
Is easy. Yeah, it's easy as fuck. So what I done was, I wasn't really fit at the time. I said, hey, why don't we go run a marathon? Why don't we do a marathon with no training? He actually phoned me. He said, let's start the year off with a bang. Sounds like a good idea. You know, if we can run 42K with no training, it's just after Christmas. If anything else pops up in the year, if we can do this, we can do, you know what I mean? That's something that's physically challenging. I said, okay, give me a day. I'm going to go to the sauna. I'm going to go, you know, get the muscles a little bit loose, give myself a chance. And the next day we ran 42 kilometers. It took us 5 or 6 hours. Was no marathon record breaking pace. And it was all well and good for like the first 10K, got through it. And the last 10K, man, I mean, I was like hobbling back home. Ended up having a stress fracture in my right foot. But man, I felt after that, even though I had that stress fracture, I had everything else, I was like, I'm a beast. I really felt it. I was like, nothing can stop me.
Yeah.
And the empowerment, you mentioned a lot about empowerment, man. The empowerment I got from that struggle. And that set the tone for the year. I was like, I can well do that. Whatever I want to do, I can do it. Because if I can do something physically that challenging, man, I ended up going up then. Weeks after that, I was going up to Glendalough in January. I was up in the middle of the mountains, like dipping into these like frozen rivers and stuff. Because I was on this high. It was insane. So I would recommend, and this is another thing I think in Ireland, there's a big thing. Labels are thrown around a lot. And, you know, if anyone's listening, I'm not saying that depression or anything like that doesn't exist, because there is some serious mental health issues. But I think the label depression it's not very serving. I don't like the term, because like if a doctor says to you, yeah, you're depressed, like you're like, okay, fuck, maybe I'm depressed now. He says I'm depressed, therefore I am. I'm like, I don't think it should be viewed in that way. I personally found that, yeah, like I've been at really low points in my life, and I probably was what they would call depressed. And big thing for me was fitness. You know, finding these problems and getting out, physical exercise, stuff like that, man, that really changed my life. But I just think in terms of labeling stuff, I think it can be very damaging. Like I said to you when I came in here, I didn't realize that I had anxiety until someone told me what anxiety was. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, sounds like me.
Yeah.
I was like, that's what I am. But I still, like, you know, if I had it, I could easily say, yeah, I am anxious. And I could go to the doctor and I could get whatever they prescribe you. And, you know, and then that's me. That's my identity. But I'm like, no, man, I'm this fucking serious marketer. I'm a fucking leader. And I'll deal with this shit. You know, I'll make my life good. I don't really know what I'm trying to say here, but you get what I'm saying.
I do get what you're saying, and it is important. It's an important thing to talk about, and it's a challenging thing to talk about.
It is,
for a lot of people. And there's a trend. I find myself talking about this a lot lately. Things that challenge me, I'm trying to find them. I'm trying to find the things that challenge me. If you say something that challenges me, my initial reaction is "fuck you." I'm like, why is that? That's something about me. It's not something about Callum. It's something about me. So I know that people will listen to a conversation about depression or obesity or insert any issue in here that are real issues, that are real things. So what we're not saying is these are not real things.
No, man, they are.
They're real things, but they become a whole limiting belief structure, and they become a crutch for some people. And again, it's not to say that those some people are bad or weak in any way. It's a poor system that we have for empowering people. And this is essentially where I come from with every single thing I try and do now, is to empower people. Because if you come to me and you are not feeling, not me necessarily, but let's pretend for a second I am the health professional here.
Yeah.
And you come to me and you say you do not feel good. And the first thing I tell you is you have depression. You are not educated in medicine, so you're going to trust me. So there's a level of trust there, and I have told you have depression. So why would you not believe me? So you now have depression, and you are 100% right. That becomes part of your identity, but that's really limiting for you because it stops you from thinking about all the other things in your life that you could potentially work on that might not cure what you have, but will definitely help you feel better. So if I tell you that, I disempower you.
It essentially, you're taking self-responsibility and ownership for the problem. Like, doctors are very good at saying, this is just the way it is. This is what you have. Like, whereas I think, and,
some doctors.
Yeah, some doctors. Sorry, I just that happens.
Yeah.
But apologies, by the way. That was a rude thing to say. But you get what I mean.
No, it is not that it's a rude thing to say. It might be, but this is common.
Yeah, it's common. It's common, and I'll tell you. One thing that changed a lot for me was when I started taking self-responsibility for everything. When you take ownership of the problems rather than point and blame at other people, man, you realize like I am where I am because of me, and you've got control over your life then. You've got control when you take that. I read a good book. It's called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink.
Oh, Jocko.
Yeah,
yes.
4 a.m.
Yeah. Do it.
Yeah. But yeah, man, extreme ownership and just like whatever goes wrong, yeah, look, it's my fault. I'll deal with it. Just taking that self-responsibility. That's one thing that most people can't do. Everyone's so used to point and blame. I'm not where I am because of this person or that person, or, you left me in a bad situation. Man, listen, there's people who were in way worse situations than you were, who've gone on to do 10 times bigger things than most people. So like, this whole comparison thing and point and blame, yeah, you can make those excuses, but listen, man, you want to get to where you're going, take ownership, and everyone, nobody wants to take self-responsibility.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah. A few things I want to take from that one. I didn't think we were going to go here.
Am I talking waffles?
Not at all, because there's a few I didn't think we would go here, but we did, and I love it because it's there's common trends, but no matter what you're talking about, there's common trends because it comes down to the principles of it. A few things that you said there, again, this is something I ask a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds to try and get multiple perspectives on the same thing.
Yeah.
There are definitely people, I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm super privileged. I'm sitting here on I don't even know what day it is today. What day is today? Today is Friday. I'm sitting here on a Friday, lunchtime, having a great conversation with you, sipping on a cup of tea in a lovely studio. It's not that I'm wealthy or anything like that. I'm privileged to be able to sit here and do this because at the moment there's some shitty things going on in the world that people don't have these opportunities.
But can I just say something? You say about privileged.
I'm using this word very...
No, but like so many people, they'll say, oh, this privilege, that privilege. Like, man, you work to get to where you are. Like, you're not privileged. Like, you've got to where you are. So many people say even in terms of like this word passive income. You ever heard people talk about passive income?
Yeah. I talk about it sometimes.
Right,
no, I don't
passive,
talk about it properly.
Passive income is great. Obviously, the goal for me is to get into real estate, like grow that bigger and stuff. But man, even that word like, oh, passive income. No, man, that's self-made income. That's my fucking
You've created it.
That's not passive.
Yeah.
I'm fucking...
There's 20 years of work after going into this.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And even that thing, man, you work to get to where you are.
What I mean when I say that, because I know it's a very sensitive word with me as well, is I have not had, touch wood, to this point in my life, a child who got sick, a parent that I have to take care of. So what I'm trying to be a little bit sensitive here to people who have things in their lives that I don't have, big issues, health issues that I don't have. So I'm acknowledging that. However, here's the big however.
I know what you mean, and that's a very good point to make.
Yeah.
I do believe that we are very lucky and blessed.
Is that probably a better word?
We're very lucky and blessed that we're not terminally ill.
Yes.
There's a lot could be wrong.
100%.
So I do agree, touch wood, that we're healthy and we're here.
But with the context of having said that, I still think that everybody have decisions that they could make. No matter what situation you're in, you still can make decisions about yourself to empower yourself. And the reason I say this, because you pointed to it really nicely there is a mindset of giving away your own power to For example, the doctor. Now, doctors are great. If you work with a doctor, you get a better result than just going to the doctor. I can tell you that for a fact. You go to the doctor, and like you said to me earlier on about the physio, you went to the physio and asked them 100 questions.
Yeah.
You're going to get a better result than the person who goes and asks no questions, because they go expecting the physio to fix them. I'm a physio, was in my previous life. And people who came to me expecting me to fix them did way worse than people who came to me and asked me how they could integrate with me and we work as a team and get them better. Those people did way better. But there is a mindset of wanting other people or other systems or our government or our company or our family to take care of us. And I'm not being disrespectful here. It's just a psyche. And to break out of that and take responsibility for yourself is terrifying.
And it's crazy, because I feel that social media and the way things are leaning nowadays, that's kind of like what it's moving towards. People don't want to work, I find. A lot of people don't want to work, man. They want
it easy.
They want everything easy, man. I'll tell you, I was at some really low points in my life. And this is all just from experience. Like, I was kicked out of home when I was like 17, 18, slept in the car, you know, had to sell the car to stay afloat. I was actually, funnily enough, like, I could have pointed blame at so many points in time in my life. Remember this one time, I literally had 20 quid left to my name. And man, this actually like was so hard for me. I was sitting in Starbucks, and as I said, from a kid, I always wanted to help people. And it's never always about the money. You know, obviously money's important. I'm sitting in Starbucks, and my uncle actually took me in at the time to help me out. And I was trying to get the business off the ground. The one or two businesses had failed. I'm sitting there. Girl walks in, 7 or 8 years old, with a sponsor card. I had €20, right? She comes up, hey, will you sponsor me for so-and-so? I said, okay, look, I said, I've got €20. I'll give you a $5 if you just go get me the change. All I had was a 20 note. So she's going around. She looks so sweet and innocent. And then I kind of see her. She's not really going to the till. I'm like, she's just a kid. Walks out the door. Keeps walking. I kind of stand up at this point. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And man, that €20 I had, I viewed that as like €200. That €20 was going to last me probably 2 weeks. I know it sounds crazy, right? But when you're that low, you know what I mean? That's a lot of money to me at the time. So she got into a van and the van drove off. And man, I was so frustrated. And I remember going to my grandmother's house, and man, I was devastated. She literally took all the money I had. This was before I actually had to sell my car, right? Like, so I've been there. And that's why I can say I'm not just talking shit. I've been like to the point where I had no money and I had to sell my shit. And I said to my grandmother, she took my money. I said, should I not help people? Like, what if I'm trying to help people? This is what I get. Like, should I continue to do that? And I thought about it for ages. I was like, you know what, man? I'm just like, that does not mean just because someone was fucked up or someone stole from me, like, I should still be a good person. I should still continue to do that. And obviously I think I'm bright enough. I made the right choice. But in terms of from there then out, I took kind of ownership for my situation. I could have sit back. I could have, took the easy route and just not pursued anything and pointed blame because I got kicked out of home and stuff like that. And I didn't. And I think that's taking that self-responsibility and taking that ownership at the time has went on to serve me so much more now.
Why do you think you did that? Where did that come from?
Because I was forced. As I said earlier, I think it's because I had some big ass problems. I was at a point where I had to do something. And I was like, you know what, man? If I'm at the bottom, like, the only way really is up. So why not do what I want to do? Like, it can't get much worse than this. How about let's just do what I want to do and be nice. Like, what's good about me? And I guess I read a lot of books, read a lot of autobiographies, mainly for the reason to get courage. I think so there's 3 types of books I read if anyone's listening. So 3 types of books I read. Number 1 is autobiographies to get courage and inspiration. So one of my favorites is Elon Musk's autobiography by Ashley Vance. That was a big book for me. Then second type of book is how-to books. So industry related, they keep me skilled on what I'm doing. And then the third book is classic books. So it helps me, helps my brain think better.
What's a classic book like?
Think and Grow Rich.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
Napoleon Hill. Something that was wrote maybe like 80 years ago and beyond. So they're the type of books I read. So they really helped me get out of that. But since then, man, like I guess because I was forced into such hard positions from a young age, like I went on to sell the car. I'll tell you, man, it was really hard for me. When that money was took from me, when she took the last €20, what happened was living in my uncle's house, and I don't know if he's listening to this, but man, I used to go around the house because I was like, the business was going under, everything was going wrong. All I had was this car. The car was worth like 15 grand, or maybe 14. And I was collecting change just to put money in the car, right? And what happened was, I was like, shit, man. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. The business isn't going good. Like, I was only starting out. And I was like, I'm going to have to sell the car. So, needed fast money. So, I sold the car for a lot less than what it was worth. And funny story to that. I read a book called Unshakable by Tony Robbins. Very good book. I would recommend it. It helps you understand how the rich get rich and create long-term wealth. And I started learning about investing. So sold the car, wanted to start a new business. I was at rock bottom and I said, right, I got 8 grand. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take 5 grand and I'm going to put that into an investment, right? Cryptocurrency 2017. This was like at the start of the initial bull run. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put 5 grand to this. I'm going to wait 6 months. Hopefully it'll make me like 20 grand. That'd be a good return. I'm going to take the other. I had to pay 2 grand back to my grandmother that I got a lend off, and I had €1,000. And I was like, I'm going to start a new business with this. So it doesn't actually, you don't need too much money to start a business. And what happened was, this is crazy, man. I had went from collecting the change around the house to fuel the car. That investment I made, the 5 grand, man, 6 weeks later was at 35k. So, man, I know, like, in terms of like what it's like to have nothing. I know what it's like to have to give something up that you don't want to do. And I know what it's like to make a shit ton of money. So it's a fucking roller coaster. I've been there. Man, well, I'll tell you something crazy. Throughout my journey of entrepreneurship, man, there's been days where I've made like crazy fucking money. Then there's been like, I'd go a month, this was early on, I'd go a month where, I wouldn't even be close to doing those months again. And that's the way it is. That's the way it is. This went a long way from what we were talking about.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, but it's interesting.
I would go, there were some days where literally, man, this is crazy. I'd make like 7 grand in one day. Swear to God, crazy shit. And then,
With the business or with the investing?
Oh man, with fucking everything. Like
Yeah.
I made like 7 grand one day with like investing. Then I made like, some days with the e-commerce stuff. Like there was a point there where, I was making like 2, 3, 4 grand a day. And then shit would get in the way, right? Like something would happen. I'd hit this roadblock where like something in the business, like PayPal, for example, held like so much money on me. They were like, nah, you know what the problem was? They said,
Your growth is too
you're
fast.
growing too fast.
Yeah.
They were like, we need to hold on here. Let's investigate this. They held all that money, never got it back. Stuff like that. So it's kind of like this roller coaster of you're always going to get hit with these problems. But it's like, I guess the biggest takeaway I could take from it was I learned to discipline my disappointment. And I just said, okay, this is not going to be plain sailing. I'm making this money and I'm still getting these problems. So if you can just learn to discipline your disappointments, I think you'll be good.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. I don't know. I just go on tangents.
Yeah, no, but it's because you asked me a question earlier on, which I didn't actually answer for you yet, is that how do I think you essentially teach people these lessons? And I'm interested, that's why I asked you there, like what was the difference? And you said you hit rock bottom. And again, it's another parallel I draw with the health industry is that most people don't change their lives or start going to the gym or change their diet or whatever until they hit rock bottom or have a heart attack. I call it the heart attack. This is the business heart attack. This is emotional heart attack, spiritual heart attacks, physical heart attacks. So I'm always curious. I ask loads of people the same question. Why? How does it happen? And there's usually something that has happened. But what I think now is powerful is that people have access to this kind of conversation and they can listen to it and they can learn these lessons. And I don't want my business to hit rock bottom before I learn how to grow my business. But I don't have to anymore because I can learn lessons from you if I'm open to that. If I have a very clear vision for myself, I can then listen to you talk about your story,
Yeah.
and I don't have to make those mistakes, but I can apply those to my journey.
But you're open to that.
I have to be open to it. And this is what I'm starting to learn now is, a lot of people have to have a really hard lesson in their own life.
Yeah.
But you can learn from other people's lessons if you're open to that learning.
Man.
If you're resistant to it, or I think, listen to this fella shiting on about making $7,000 a day, immediately I'm not open to learning anything from you. Even if, now I do, but even if I didn't believe anything you've said to me in the last hour and a half, I could still take lessons. I don't have to take everything you say and do it your way.
Man, that's the crazy thing. That's the crazy thing, especially nowadays, this whole even Rogan controversy.
Oh, yeah.
So many people are like, Joe Rogan this, Joe Rogan that. And it's like, since when is Joe Rogan, like I love Joe.
Yeah, so do I.
But like, since when is Joe Rogan like right all the time?
Yeah.
I listen to that and I'm not like taking everything he says as fact.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's coming in and I'm like open to the information. But I think you're right, man. I think you've got to be open, and that most people, well, I gotta get that right. Most people are very close-minded, and they're this willingness to not be. They don't want to be wrong. Like when I went to London, like for example, Ty Lopez ripped me a new asshole. Swear to God, and you know what? I was delighted.
There's learning there.
I said to him, man, tell me more. Tell me more. I want to know more, Ty. You know what I mean? I couldn't get him to tell me enough bad things about myself. That's what I want. But most people don't want to hear that stuff.
Yeah, but it's challenging, and it is challenging. And like I said earlier on, I'm trying to practice. I'm trying to build a system for myself now.
I think you're doing phenomenally well, man.
Well, with the bit, yeah, I mean, but like anything can look like that from the outside. No one knows what's going on the inside. It's like, but this is what we do as people. Even you and your mate, like your mate goes, "Oh, you're doing great," and inside you could be dying. You could be like fucking riddled with depression and self doubt on the inside. And I'm open about this. I'm regularly, and some of my clients listen to this, and I tell them I'm regularly suffer with imposter syndrome and self-doubt, but I know I do a very good job, and I know I help people, and I know that if you come to me with a problem, I'm going to help you with that problem. So that's a principle that keeps me going when I feel wobbly or shaky. I mightn't be the best podcast producer in the world. I'm like, that's fucking irrelevant though to me. Yeah. And it wobbles me sometimes, but the point I'm trying to make here is I'm getting much clearer on why I'm doing this, and I actually want to help people. And if I have those principles, all the wobbles will come and they'll happen, but I can power through, and I never stop doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they suffer with imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big one.
Yeah,
and that's a big one why people don't pursue things further.
And to go back to this idea of a communal psyche and a societal psyche, and why people shout against Joe Rogan and want to externalize everything and make it everybody else's problem, is because, like we said, it's terrifying to step outside the bounds of what's accepted as the norm. So if the average person, quote unquote, what is the average person, who's going about their job,
your everyday person
who doesn't really like what they're doing and it maybe wants to do something, it's very difficult, especially if you're maybe in your late 20s or 30s or 40s or even your 50s, and you've done something for so long and you've built up this idea, this identity of who you're supposed to be, an accountant or a chef or whatever it might be. It's very hard to then sit down with yourself and say, I want to do something different. And then to look at all your friends and all your family going, are you fucking crazy?
Right.
Are you mental? Oh my God, you're going away from a stable job because you want to paint pictures of flowers. That's really hard to do. So I understand, because I feel it all the time. I understand.
Pictures of flowers.
Yeah, but you know, Van Gogh was a fucking painted picture of flowers and made him famous when he died, I suppose. But it's really hard to do that. So I'm not judgmental, and I don't think everyone should go be an entrepreneur and start businesses and give up their day job and all that. But it'll eventually come out in some way. It'll come out as trauma or sadness or depression or anxiety or a lack of happiness, or you'll get to my biggest fear, get to my deathbed, that whole deathbed thing, and have these regrets that I didn't try. I'm terrified of that. I didn't try the thing I thought I wanted to do. I still don't know if this is what I'm going to do.
Man, that's so true. I could tell you, man, I tried so many things.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even want to know the stuff.
I actually couldn't do one of some of this stuff.
Like, man, the stuff, I've done everything you can think of in terms of trying to make money.
Erotic dancing?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, there you go. That's the thing. Go.
I fell for all the get rich quick schemes at the start. Fell for all that. Tried everything to be. I tried to be a trader. I tried to be everything you can think of. And sorry, what was the point you made just before that? You were saying
it's very hard to step out of that mold, that cookie cut mold.
It's very hard, and you mentioned it earlier. It's just like actually going and just trying something. Actually, I have a friend right now. Guy has great aspirations. Real close friend of mine, and I hope he's listening. He's kind of at this point in his life where he's confused. You know, he's 24, 25, has great ambitions, real good guy, and he just feels a bit lost. But he's got so much potential, and I'm always saying to him, and I know he's listening now, and he has taken the first steps, and already he's like, I can see the bigger smile on his face. I can see he's a lot happier. And I said to him for so long, man, you've just got to take the first step. You don't know, you're not going to know what you want to do until you just even try some. You know what I mean? He wasn't even sure. It wasn't as if he had this thing in his mind where it's like, oh, I love horse riding, I'm going to go do horse riding. He had no idea what he wants to do, but I just said, start trying things. You know what I mean? And now, man, his smile is brighter. It's exciting. And he sees what I do. And I told him, man, you'll know what to do. When you take the first step, then what you have to do after that will become present. So basically, like, you know, let's say it's marketing. You want to become a digital marketer. Start. And then, like, you don't need to say, oh, what do I need to know at the start? What'll happen is you'll start and you'll be like, okay, I was talking to some guy about Facebook ads. I think I have to go learn Facebook ads. And then you go on this path of like developing that skill. And I think, like, you know, it's never figured out. And this is a friend of mine now, and man, I'm telling you, he's taken that step, and just even me seeing him. And I told him, even my girlfriend as well, most people who start out, like, you're not going to get it right first time either. Like, it's going to take a while to figure out where you're going. But that's just part of it, man. Like, I heard a good one. Steve Harvey, I think it was Steve Harvey said it. Man, if we had everything figured out, there would be no need for faith. There would be no need for faith. If we knew everything right now, you know, I've lately been trying to see a bit more meaning behind hard things in my life. And I think, you know, whether people are spiritual or not, so be it. But I'm trying to figure out, man, like, for example, I sprained my ankle recently. Okay. So annoying. I'm such an active person. And I'm like, you know what? There has to be something. There's a reason why this happened. I'm trying to find meaning behind that. And the way I think of it is, you know, God, whether you believe in God or not, the big man in the sky or whatever, but like, man, he knows your plans. But if he told you everything, if you knew everything that it would take to get to where you want to go, you know what you'd do? You'd say, God, listen, man, that sounds great. I don't want to do all that though. I don't want to go through the hardships. I don't want to have to go to the top of that mountain. I'm good where I am.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes you're not meant to know how it's going to go. That's the whole part of life. It's just faith and having the courage. As I said, doesn't take money to make money, man. It takes courage. And that's not just about money. That's about fulfillment in life, just in general.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's actually a beautiful way of going about things, because I want to be a digital marketer. How do you know?
You do?
No. But I'm using an example.
Okay.
I'd be a terrible digital marketer. I want to be a digital marketer. But how do I actually know? So I go and try it. But that doesn't mean I'm stuck because I've invested time and energy into being a digital marketer and it hasn't worked out. It's given me an opportunity to figure out, do I or do I not want to be a digital marketer? And no matter what the answer is there, you haven't lost. If it's a no, you haven't wasted that time, because if you didn't spend the time doing it, you'd never know. So you've done the time and you've decided, I don't want to be a digital marketer. Great. Because now you can try something else.
Like, let me ask you.
It's not wasted time.
What brought you to here? So, like, people are probably wondering, what should I even try? I always say, like, what do you talk about endlessly? You could talk for hours on a Saturday night. What's your interests? What do you find yourself talking about a lot of the time? Like, how did you end up here? Like, because you said physio, for example. Yeah,
well, my background, very quickly, people know this who listen, okay, but I trained as an AT, a sports specialised physio. I worked in a medical clinic, which originally was a GP, that we then transformed. Dr. Sam Van Eden was the doctor, into a functional medicine clinic. But my passion throughout the entire process was helping people. It was working with people and communication. And over the course of a decade, I realised that one of the biggest issues with most things, but from my medical perspective, it was the same, was poor communication and relationships.
Yeah.
And we were going further and further and further and further away from actually having connection with people. So, for example, you come in as a client, I can help you best if you trust me, if I have a good connection with you, and if we have a deep conversation about you, what's going on, how I can help you. It was all in the conversation and the communication and the relationship. And then I looked at the bigger picture of the world, and it was Instagram and TikTok, and the window for actually developing a relationship was getting smaller and narrower and narrower. People were pushing themselves further apart. I talk about Tribe and Sebastian Younger all the time. We're being channeled into individual lives as opposed to community-based lives. Didn't feel good to me. Didn't feel good to the patients that I worked with. I was like, do you know what I'm passionate about is communication and relationships. So I was like, what's good for that? Podcasts.
Makes sense.
And then I integrated podcasts with the work I was doing in the clinic, and it went really well, simply because we were able to more effectively and efficiently communicate with people, and they were then able to communicate with us, and we built trust and relationships. And the best results I ever got with physio or anything was with people who had a good relationship with me and had trust and understood the process and were empowered. I know you said I mentioned that word a lot. I do. They were empowered.
Yeah.
So what I essentially do now, and why I'm here, it's not because I wanted the best podcast studio in the world or anything like that. It was because this, for me, is a platform for communication. And through this, I have now met you, right? And I've met loads of amazing people who I never would have crossed paths with really in my previous life as a physio, if I got a room and built my business as a physio.
It's crazy.
But now I can communicate with someone like you about, and like I said, I had a 3-hour conversation 2 days ago with Niall Graham about masculinity and mindset and stuff like this. And I have a much broader circle of people that I communicate regularly with now. And as a result, I've grown as a person. And I can now track my growth as a person based on the people I've communicated with, the deeper I've gone in conversation, and the deeper I've gone in myself.
Did you expect to get, like, could you have planned this?
I couldn't have planned what this is now as a business.
That's what I mean.
But I knew the answer lay in communication and network and community and getting closer to people as opposed to further away with people and not competing with people. Now, I said earlier on, I constantly have imposter syndrome and fear over what I'm doing because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm 33 years of age, I have 2 kids, and I'm new in business, and I'm an entrepreneur, and it's all risky, and I'm not on the path, and I haven't got 10 years of career behind me, and blah, 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 blah. So I constantly deal with that fear. However, I have an overpowering sense of purpose in what I'm doing. And now,
world class. That's world class.
But now, this morning, it's been confirmed for me every single time someone comes in here. This morning, even before we turned these mics on, it was confirmed I was doing the right thing because we had a great conversation for 90 minutes before we turned this mic on. And I was
crazy,
like,
isn't it?
Fuck me. When was the last time I was able to have a 90-minute conversation with someone I just met? Never.
That's insane.
So I've created an environment to allow myself to do that. And trust me, anyone who's listened to this, I didn't have a fucking clue how I was going to make this work as a business. No idea. But through doing this, now other people have gravitated towards me, and I try and help them on their journeys to build their relationships and communities and tribes. And that's what I'm passionate about. It's materialized as a podcast studio now.
Here, act now, figure the rest out later.
Fact, yeah. I hadn't a clue what I was doing.
Yeah. You had an idea though.
I had an idea. I had a why.
Yes.
I didn't have all the tools I needed. Now, after this conversation, I'll have a lot more practical tools because obviously you need all the practical stuff. And this is actually why I'm so passionate about this, because I know so many people like me who have such deep missions and whys and really, really solid, integral purposes to their lives and lack all of the tools to actually translate that to the real world, to business. And I'm one of those people. So now I'm learning those things and trying to, through this podcast, help other people learn those things. And that's health, wellness, self-empowerment, finance, business, marketing.
Health, wealth, love and happiness.
All of that stuff, yeah. So that's a really long-winded way of answering your question.
Because again, like, this is my first time meeting you, so it's good. I love, as much as you said I was the guest today, I love hearing about you, man. I'm here to understand. And even we were chatting about the cameras and, you know, even the way, like, you're a physio now, I'm probably going to annoy you after this.
I shouldn't have said fuck off.
Have a look at here. I want to ask you about my dorsey.
I've had this back pain for the last 12 years. Can you fix it?
Yeah, like, but man, it's crazy stuff. It's mad.
Yeah, it is mad. It is mad. Before I let you go, I have one more topic I'd love to touch on with you because you're obviously quite proficient in this area.
No, I'm enjoying this, man. There's no panic.
Deadly.
There's no panic.
Do you want another biscuit?
No, I was actually going to just say, could I run to the toilet? I'm actually,
100%.
I'm not tight for time.
Brilliant.
I love to stay and chat, whatever topics.
Lovely.
Don't feel that way, man. I actually just need to run to the toilet.
We'll take a pause, folks, and Callum will be back in a second.
Sweet.
Take your time.
Right,
we're back, folks.
Yeah, we're back.
He didn't run away. He came back. I'm just going to move this ever so slightly closer to your mouth, if you don't mind.
No problem.
Oh, beautiful. That's what we want. Yeah.
Was I all good beforehand?
Oh, you were 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you didn't do a legger, so you came back into me.
No, man. I drank, just drinking so much water today. So
Gotta stay hydrated. Gotta get those electrolytes in as well, like we were speaking about earlier.
salt, magnesium, zinc. You said it, man.
Get it all in.
But yeah, man. Like, it's been great so far.
Good. You're enjoying yourself.
Yeah, man. I love this studio.
Deadly. Yeah, you kind of forget. Like, we're an hour and 40 minutes in now.
Are we?
Yeah, time stops in here, man.
Man,
Time
that's
stops
crazy.
in here.
That's crazy.
I want to ask you about something. That's obviously it's the center of many people's lives nowadays, and it's social media. We touched on it a couple of times earlier on in the conversation, but it is one of those things that has become an integral part of our lives for most people, I would say. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter. It is the name social media. It is literally how people connect, communicate, but it's very weird. And anyone who's watched documentaries like The Social Dilemma and all that kind of stuff, or who's interested in mental health, as I am, obviously, it's a double-edged sword. But like I said to you, we had a conversation about steroids earlier on, for example. Steroids, drugs, alcohol, food, they're all just things. It's the intention and how you use those things that gives them the outcome. So, for example, what I mean by that in steroids, a steroid is a steroid. You can use it in medicine and it can really help people.
Yeah.
Or you can use it to cheat in the Olympics and you can win a medal, and that's a bad thing.
Yes.
We were speaking about bodybuilders. Like, I don't care if a bodybuilder uses steroids. Once they understand the risks and they make their own decision, that's fine. It doesn't make them a
And
bad
if they're
person.
selling programs,
If they lie to me and they tell me that if I do 100 push-ups with a lemon on my head every day because this is a new program, and they don't tell me that they've taken steroids, I have a problem with that. But I don't have a problem with that person taking steroids. So like we said, I would have no problem if you were selling me a fitness program and you said, Dan, here's my stack, here's the steroids I take to get to this size. So you've program A, which is with steroids, or program B, which isn't with steroids. I'd be like, sound Callum, I can choose for myself, and I'll probably choose program B. Which one was the no steroids one? I'll choose that one.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But it's transparent.
It's transparent, yeah. Social media, when I look at it objectively, is the same thing. It's a tool. And as a business owner, it's been a very good tool for me. However, I am keenly aware of the negative sides of social media in terms of how I use it. If I go on and I schedule my time and I put my post up and I engage with my audience and I create some value and content and I put my phone down again, I feel really good. And I'm like, whoo, and I'm empowered. And someone sends me a message and says, hey, Dan, really love that post. I'm like, wow.
It's great.
It's a great feeling. If I open my phone and I mindlessly grab it and I start scrolling through, 10 minutes later, I feel like a bag of shit. If it's an hour later, I'm like, I've wasted an hour of my day. I don't even remember what I looked at. So it can make me feel really bad as well. So the point I'm trying to make here is it's just a tool. And yes, maybe if you watch documentaries like the Social Dilemma and stuff like that, it is being used. It can be leveraged to sell us stuff and to make us feel worse about ourselves and to compare. However, we're in control of that at the end of the day.
I think with social media and how consuming it can be, I want to use the platform only to produce. I think, like, all depending on what your goals are. For me, social media, I want to produce on it. That's all. I don't care what anybody else is doing. Yes, I do consume. I'm guilty. I do consume content as well, but like 85% of my time is spent on production on social media.
Okay.
Man, this is like, these phones are more powerful.
They're nuts.
Than the computers they used to go to the moon. Like, this is essentially like a supercomputer, a money-making machine, and use it how you want. I'm 80. You can that thing can change your life, or it can ruin your life.
Yeah.
So choose carefully. And one thing, I read a good book called I think it was Indistractable. It's very good.
Oh, what's his name? It's not Cal Newport, is it?
I can't remember the author's name.
Maybe Cal Newport recommended it.
I read that, and now I have like time limits and stuff. I set time limits up on the phone. So like inside you can say like 15 minutes on YouTube. Like if I've got a habit of going onto YouTube, and I know then. So you only got a small amount of time to actually use it. So if you struggle with social media, I would recommend setting some limits on your phone. But yeah, man, like, I know TikTok is a bad one. I've heard this.
I don't have it on the phone.
I've heard so many people like being consumed by it, like, majorly.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's like from a neuroscience, but I'm not a neuroscientist, but I listen to a lot of them. From a neuroscience point of view, it's easy to understand the way it hijacks your pleasure seeking center. You want the dopamine hits, you want the constant
That's it.
engagement. There's a very interesting thing that Andrew Huberman talks about in terms of the change of context. So usually, the way he would describe it is, these are not my words, you walk into this room and you have a context. You have this nice, relaxing environment. We're going to have a conversation. We've been deep in conversation now for the guts of 2-3 hours, whatever. And then you leave and you go outside and you'll be like, oh, now I am outside. And your brain goes, okay, Callum, you're now outside. And then you get into your car. Okay, now I'm driving. So the change of context is quite slow, and it allows you to prime yourself and get into driving mode and understand. But on these platforms, the change of context is instant, from post to post, from swipe to swipe, and now it's even faster. So it's scrambling how your brain usually processes context and usually processes your own position in the world and your intent and intention. So it completely takes you out of the frame of what it is to be a normal human being. Plus, it's hijacking your pleasure-seeking behaviors without the attached challenge, like we talked about earlier on. Like usually to well, not necessarily here because I put it within arm's reach of you, but to get a nice biscuit, you're going to have to earn the money, go to the shop, spend the money, buy the biscuit. In olden days, you're going to have to go and find the animal, track the animal, hunt the animal, kill the animal, prep the animal, cook the animal, and then eat the animal. So there's pleasure, but there was pursuit involved. So it's a good balance for your body, and you actually grow through the pursuit, and physically you're healthier, blah, blah, blah. Whereas with this stuff, it gives you the pleasure signal in your brain, the dopamine hit, the whatever, but there's nothing attached to that. And not only that is you have this comparison as well. So there's multiple elements of it that can be really, really harmful for you.
Yeah, and it's so easy it's like the habit of swiping. Like the habit of swiping, it's such an easy thing to do. It's nearly addicting.
They've designed it that way,
just to go like that. I actually seen a funny thing before. Kanye West is so funny, the stuff he's saying. But I don't know even know if this is true, but you mentioned something about like Flappy Bird.
Oh,
and he was saying how addicting that was. He said like just because of the simple that, and he said like it's very similar to like social media. It's just like that, going up and down. And it is, man. They know they want to keep you on these platforms for as long as possible. To them, it's not a social platform, in my opinion. It's ad platforms. That's how they make the money. Social media is moving more towards pay to play space, in my opinion. So what I mean by that is, you have to pay to get more reach. In terms of like, for example, on Instagram, it's very hard to blow up a new Instagram account. Whereas on TikTok, because it's still early, you can go to a big following pretty fast. But Instagram is such a valuable platform, and Facebook, and they make like 80 billion, I think, a year, or maybe more. I don't know the number. Someone's got to correct me on that. But yeah, these platforms, man, they're becoming advertising spaces, and they want to keep people on there because they're making so much money.
Yeah. No,
that's what it is, man. It's
100% right.
They're ad platforms.
So, my question for you, Mr. Callum Roche, then, understanding the context of what we just said in terms of Instagram can be used depending on the intent you apply to it. How, nowadays, let me pre-frame this. Obviously, as business owners or somebody selling a service or somebody who wants to help, and as unfortunate as you might think this is, if you have something to offer and you want to give people help, or you want to exist, you want to be, you want people to be aware of you, you have to go to where people are. And at the moment, they're on social media and on platforms like Instagram and TikTok. In order to build awareness and to build that authority on these platforms that are handicapping us in terms of we're creating great content and giving all the value, following all the steps that you applied there, but the actual algorithm to set up the platform itself is handicapping us in terms of engagement and reach. What kind of strategy should we take nowadays when it comes to trying to do? We're doing all of our 4 steps, but no one's fucking seeing it because Instagram has decided, right, your reach now is shite.
Okay, you've got 2 or 3 options.
Okay.
Option number 1. So
write all this down.
So you're on social media. You're struggling to get attention.
Yes.
First thing you've got to do is like you want to get attention. Obviously, that's the goal. So number 1, you can pay for it, which is like the way to just get in front of like so many people. So I would recommend, man, every decision you make in terms of being in business, it's either you're expanding or you're contracting. You never want to make a decision where you're contracting. And even if you're investing money in advertising and you're not getting direct returns, man, never, like an investment in advertisement, man, that's an investment in more attention. You never want to be contracting with your business. So number 1, I would be paying to get my name out there. Secondly, then you got to be like talking about stuff that grabs people's attention. So touch on maybe like if something's in the news or it's controversial, do what you say. Like look for something that gets people's attention and then angle it towards your business. So for example, let's say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something right now. The stuff going on in the world right now is so crazy. Find something that's really relevant and take a message from that and use that with regards to whatever it is you're talking about. The third thing then is break common beliefs. That's always a good one. That gets attention a lot. Like, for example, I seen one and I had to look at it. It was a comparison between a McDonald's cookie or something and something else and a protein something.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, it turns out like the McDonald's thing was actually like nearly like I don't know what it was, but I was like, wow, this is really interesting. This is like,
it was less shit for you than a protein.
Yeah, I was like, this is actually breaking one of my common beliefs. So, and there's so many different ways in terms of the how-tos and how to get attention. It's like there's no one specific way, but you got to get creative. At the end of the day, as I said, you're competing with all the stuff in the world. So you got to figure out, man, if that means you got to ring people up, if that means you've got to say crazy stuff, you gotta do what you gotta do, man. It's getting harder. It's getting harder. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, no, I know what you're trying to say.
And I don't mean just say random stuff that's gonna get attention because people think you're an idiot. But
that's the conflict for people. I think when they get onto these platforms is they want their message to be clean, authentic, and not driven by this need to create content. But they also want to be relevant on a platform that literally only rewards you when you're creating content specifically for that platform. So for example, for Instagram, nowadays, your engagement is a bit higher when you're creating reels. Most people don't want to compress their message down into a 60-second reel because it dilutes the whole principle behind their message. But to compete on that platform, you almost have to change the way you deliver your message to be relevant on the platform, or else no one's going to hear it. So it's a really difficult game for people to play.
What I would say is you want to be a content machine, in my opinion, and you want to be omnipresent. So record a big clip, put it on YouTube, redistribute it. Yeah. That's what I would do. I'd break it down into, you can kill two birds with the one stone with TikTok and Instagram. You got the long form piece of content on YouTube. You can put that on Facebook. They don't have caps. I would be redistributing. I wouldn't be creating content like so many different times.
Yeah.
I would just be, I would be compounding content. That's a big one. So the goal is, man, it's not going to be Instagram. It's not going to be TikTok.
It's going to be
it's going to be combination. Man, you've got to be everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's just the way it is. You've got to be everywhere. Like business, marketing, sales, someone eventually is going to come along and do, and like there probably is. Like if you've obviously got like other people who are doing this. Is there? Like
I take care of them.
Okay. No, but you know what I'm saying?
Definitely, yeah. Anyone can do this.
You know what I'm saying? But I'll tell you something. The people who survive recessions, two things, right? Here's the people who survive recessions. Number one is the person who has the most attention. And number two is the person who has the lowest price, right? So if if you're listening to this, what I would say is, I'd done this exercise with myself. Ask yourself, where are you on the attention scale right now? If shit hit the fan today, right? Where would you be on the attention scale in terms of your business? Do you have enough attention to keep like getting more? Like if we hit recession tomorrow, like would you be fucked? And then number two, is your business at a point where if it did get to there, would you be able to lower your price because people have less money? I'm not saying drop your prices because, to try get business, but I'm saying when people have less means, you're going to have to, the margins aren't as good. So that's why it's so important to be everywhere. You want to be getting attention. I don't know where I was going with that, but they're the two ways people survive recession. So I think, man, it's important as well. When shit does hit the fan, in my opinion, everyone always thinks contract, right? Yeah. Cut the marketing budgets, cut this. You know what I say? Man, when everyone is contracting,
expand.
Man, that's your opportunity to expand.
Yeah.
When everyone else is pulling back, when shit hits the fan, they're cutting the advertising budgets. Now's your time to shine, baby. Let's get out in front. We can take market share now.
Yeah.
And that's the way you've got to be thinking, man. Everything you do in business, you got to be expanding. So just staying in front, man. Most popular doesn't win. Most known wins. You could have the best service, okay? But best service doesn't beat most known. I'm telling you that. That's a fact. If more people know me, but you've got a better service, you don't win, I win.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, that's how important this is. Look, call me an attention seeker. That's what I am. You know?
Yeah.
I am an attention seeker.
Yeah. And I suppose I want to pull some good advice from what you said there. So if I am a business owner or service provider, or whatever, I don't necessarily need to just create content for Instagram that I don't really like creating that kind of content. Find a platform that suits the kind of content I'm creating. So it could be YouTube if I like long form stuff, or a podcast or whatever.
Exactly.
And then I can repurpose that to fit into the other platforms.
Like, what are you going to do with this? You could go...
Everything.
Yeah, you can do YouTube. You can go pure audio. You can do everything, man. This is like the perfect example of like compounding this.
Yeah.
Like even me, I want to probably take some of these clips.
Well, this is going to be essentially a 2-hour episode that we're going to pull.
This is what I mean.
Medium, short clips, put them everywhere, because you'll hit people, I find, at different points of their consumption funnel, if you want to call it that. Someone will see a 30-second clip on Instagram, or someone will see a 5-minute video on YouTube, and they'll pick the piece of content that they like to consume. And all of that hopefully will lead that person to listen to this full conversation.
And as I said, with regards to when you're producing content, so many people, they look at the competitors, they copy what they're doing. Man, the biggest differentiation for you is your personal brand.
It's you, yeah.
Right? People buy people. People buy your story. Don't be afraid. Like, that's what makes you unique. So many people, they're just like saying what other people are saying, man. Be you, be authentic. People know when you're bullshit.
Yeah.
They
They
do,
smell
man.
it a mile away.
Yeah, man. People know when you're bullshit.
Yeah.
Like,
this is the key with podcasts, and you said it kindly to me when you came back in here as well. My style of podcasting is different than you've experienced before. This is just my style of conversation, but I've embraced that as opposed to trying to be like somebody else. And when I look back at the first few episodes I did, I was trying to be something I wasn't, and I've learned that. So, like, for example, when I'm coaching a client, if you come in here to grow a podcast, that's essentially the core of what we do here. It's not necessarily about the audio and the mics and all that kind of stuff. It's about trying to embrace what makes you you and unique, because nobody else can do that. And if you can do it, that's something that people will gravitate towards. If you start a podcast and you try and be exactly like somebody else, that person already exists. There's already a Joe Rogan. So if I try and be like Joe Rogan, they'll just listen to Joe Rogan because he's there first, he's there longer, he's more experienced, he's bigger.
Here, I'll give you an example.
I'm better than Joe Rogan, by the way.
Yeah. Prymal Pro. Trumps JRE, for sure. And the power of personal branding, man, look at Joe Rogan, for example. Sold that podcast to Spotify for reportedly 200 million.
Yeah.
200 million. They didn't buy a podcast. They bought Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Right? Look at Kylie Jenner, look at Kim Kardashian. People are quick to say, oh, they're idiots. Man, they're smart. They know what they're doing. They're selling their names. That's all personal branding.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor, proper 12. He's like so controversial as well. You know, all these people, personal branding, they're selling their names for massive money.
This is the thing, isn't it? You don't necessarily have to agree with any of these people like Joe or Conor McGregor, but you cannot deny that them or the team they have around them are incredibly smart. Now, it also doesn't mean you have to be outrageous and do the things they do. There's many people who are in positions of influence who don't do crazy shit, but they still embrace the same rules.
Man, 110%. The whole philosophy, I said at the start, like me or hate me, at least you know me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if I know what I'm about, I know I'm a good person. Listen, man, it doesn't matter. I'm on a mission. And all you've got to do is look at the likes of Trump, probably one of the most polarized people there is. Like 50% of people probably don't like him. Some do. And he went on to be the president. You know, he was a businessman. He had so much attention, so polarized, and he got to the highest level you can get to. You know, so no, it's not a success. I said it before. Isn't a popularity contest.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter. You don't have to get everybody to like you. Years ago, I used to be so focused on trying to get everybody to like me, bit of a people pleaser. And then as time went on, man, as I said, I understood the why, and we spoke about that already. I said, man, you know what? Me and my girlfriend went to the beach, and we done this exercise, and she's helped me with a lot of this stuff. And we wrote down some stuff as to where I was 5 years ago and where I am today. And man, I've changed a lot in 5 years in terms of like socially, physically, mentally, spiritually, the whole lot. And it's crazy. I went from like being a 10 on the social scale where everyone probably liked me. Obviously, that sounds a little bit vain. Probably, I obviously had the haters, you know.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I don't really. Number one, I don't really care if you don't like me. I really don't, and that's being honest. I'll still be open to hearing what you're saying in terms of whether you give me feedback, and I will actually take that on board. But whether you like me or not, I don't really care, because I know who I am. And where was I going with the second point? Yeah, now I'd say I'm a 5 on the scale. Now I'd say I'm a 5. And yeah, like I know that that's not necessary for me to get to where I'm going with Roche Marketing Group. Listen, man, at the end of the day, if I'm a good person and I'm great at what I do, which, you know, even with Roche Marketing Group, man, like our services are world class. And that's what I actually recommend. Sorry, this is just off topic. I want to mention, like, if you want to get new business, man, I recommend like make it easy for people to do business with you. Like have an offer that it's easy to say yes to. Like, you know, offer guarantees. Like if you're great at what you do, I remember for so long, I said to you at the start when I came in, man, I struggled when I first started out in business. I was in this race on price. I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
Oh, I know what it's all about. Yeah, the race to the bottom.
The race to the bottom, man. The race to the bottom on price, man, that's a surefire way to go out of business. And that's not why you got into business. That's not why you got in. We got in to make a shit ton of money. So I said to you earlier on, and I don't want to give too much away, so you got to contact me for the rest.
For the scoop.
But man, I'm telling you, like, the biggest thing online, and so like to address the topic of social media, is perception. You know what I mean? Like, if you're great at what you do, make sure to let people know. Tell people how great you are. You know, toot your own horn. You know what I mean? Brag.
Yeah.
Like, make bold statements. Make big claims.
You mentioned this about not under-promising to over-deliver, which is a common thing.
Yeah, man.
Fucking promise what you can do.
Man, what's going on with everybody saying, like, you know, you gotta under-promise and then over-deliver?
It's a fair thing.
Man, you under-promise, you haven't got a hope of getting new business. You have no hope. In the world we live in today, you start under-promising to people, you're not getting the business, man. You want to over-promise and over-deliver, because under-promising, man, you want
to promise what you can do and actually deliver that thing, but those statements should be...
Man, they got to be bold.
Yeah.
You got to be talking some big game.
But you have to be able to back it up.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
I think that's the point, yeah.
Oh, no, that's a given.
Yeah,
like, in my mind, like, that's a given. But to most people, yeah, like, obviously...
I just want to clarify that,
yeah. Make bold statements. Force yourself to deliver. Like, my goal, for example, one of my goals is I want 8 billion people to know me. 8 billion. I want 8 billion people to know me. Like, and why can't they?
Yeah.
Like, that's my goal. You know what I mean? I want to get that much attention. Like, man, I'm telling you, like, when you get to that level, people have done it, man. Like, there's people, like, look at Conor McGregor, man, how he went from nothing to that, man. He's go any part of the world and he's...
That's really interesting you say that, because I recognize the power in that, but I don't want that. I do not want fame. I don't want that type of recognition. I recognize, and this is my dilemma with the social media thing, I recognize that a huge part of why people work with me is because of me and because of my personal brand and what I do and my message. And it's not the podcast studio, it's Dan, the podcast guy, is usually what people talk about. But I do not want to be known. Even with this it's funny I say that, doing this podcast, put this stuff out for people. I'm genuinely doing this for me and to help other people. But geez, I don't want to be famous, man. Jesus.
Really?
Yeah, fucking terrifies me.
I wouldn't mind that.
And I respect that. I absolutely respect that.
Yeah, that's
I would not like it at all.
My goal is to, I know, man, what I do, get the attention. That's just, you know, man, I've been going at this for a while now, and that's just kind of part of it, man. If I want to get to where I'm going, it's obviously I don't need 8 billion people to know. I don't need that to get to where I want to go. But I set goals so big that, like, you know what I mean? Obviously 8 billion people might not know me, but my goal is to push on. I want to serve, like, one of the things I want to do, I want to make enough money that I can leave a long-lasting impact on the planet. I actually don't know what it is, what I want to do yet, but I want to be able to do something on a global scale, whether it's like, I actually have no idea. Something on the level that Musk is doing. That's what I want to do. And I know the only way I'm going to get there is by, you know, getting attention, being great at what I do, making money. And as you said, like, you know, help yourself first.
Yeah.
And get to that point then where I'm able to do something like that. And in order for me to get to that level, to meet my goals of it, the goal isn't solely to get all those people to know me, but in order to help the world on the level that I want to do, it's going to require the level of attention that these big players have, like Musk, like Bezos, like all these people, you know? So
Yeah.
it's not like I'm just like seeking this for the sake of it. If anyone's listening, I'm not like just some weirdo, like, oh, this guy's like craving fame. Like, that's the last thing I want. I just know that that brings what I need to do what I want to do.
Okay.
But yeah, fame as just seeking fame, I think that would be pointless.
Yeah.
I think that would be silly.
But this is why I'm interested in this part of the conversation, because I, and to acknowledge this point as well, I want to make money. That's why I'm in business. Obviously, we all want to make money. And my goal for making money is to give me the time that I think I need to actually have an impact on my family, my friends, the people around me, my community. That's what I want.
Yeah.
And I can't help my community. And it sounds like it's a fucking, oh, of course, yeah, he just wants money because he wants cars and boats and shit. No, not at all. That stuff is nice. Don't get me wrong. I like cars. But money is a barrier to me at the moment. I see money as a barrier to being able to do the things I want and need to do in my community and help and actually have an impact. I can't have that impact if I'm thinking about money.
People who tell you that whole money, as we said earlier, people who tell you, you know, oh, you don't need money, man. They're people who've gave up. Like a lot of people, the people who give you that type of advice, it's just because they've gave up on it themselves. That's my opinion. A lot of people who give you these things that you may be saying to yourself, where you're questioning in your mind, like, no, like I do want more money. Like people who are usually saying that, man, they've typically probably, they don't have a lot of money themselves.
That's quite common.
And they've given up on their dreams.
Yeah.
That's being honest, man.
I get you. And there's a lot of people in the circles, again, that I would frequent. It's a lot of wellness and a lot of community, a lot of tribe. And there is a mindset that money corrupts that sense of community. And I get that point. I do get that. However, in the modern world, it would be a huge struggle to try and build a community based on just no money or no exchange of that type. Because I look at money as an exchange of energy. And again, this isn't money.
It is. Money is an exchange of energy.
An exchange of energy. And it's the one we all use at the moment. So if I can build up a resource of that energy, I have more to exchange and have to create this impact that I'm looking to create. And you're the same. But it's a very, very difficult line to walk, because you can very quickly fall into the trap of being addicted to more money. And there is never enough money.
I think they say once you make over a certain amount a
75 grand, they say. Now that's in the States, and it's Dr. Clara Santos, the Happiness Lab is the podcast she runs, but she's a psychologist and she runs courses and all on this. And it's incredible. And when I'm listening to some of the stuff she says, she spoke to this guy, actually great story, I'll tell it really quickly. Yeah. And I'm going to butcher the details, but the concept of the story.
I want to know.
She speaks to this guy who's essentially a fixer for the ultra wealthy. You can go and listen to this. I'll actually link the episode so it can contradict everything I'm about to say here now, but this guy's a fixer for the ultra wealthy. Yeah. So essentially, he solves problems that only people with outrageous amounts of money have. For example, there was one guy I think had a yacht that was so big he wasn't able to berth it in most of the ports around the world. Now, for me and you, we're like, what a fucking wanker. But for him, that's a problem that he has that he needed help with. So this guy's like, I fix problems for the ultra wealthy people.
It's a good line of work to be in.
It's not a bad line of work. I'd say the commission's all right. But he said, I've worked with people with thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, billions, and trillions. And he says, there is no amount of money that will make you happy. And he's like, I'm saying this from experience. It's not a cliche. He says, the millionaire, the guy with 5 million wants 10. He thinks that will make him happy. The billionaire thinks it's $1 trillion. If you get caught in the chasing of the money, it's a recipe for disaster. Excuse me. And this is a cliche we all know, but he was saying this from a point of experience working with these people. The people who have 1 million want 1 billion. The people who have 1 billion want 1 trillion. So he said, that's not the answer. And then they discussed this figure of 75 grand. Is that once you make enough money that all of your, like the Maslow's hierarchy.
Yes,
needs,
I was just thinking of that.
All of your basic primary needs are met and you're not under pressure to feed yourself, clothe yourself, or give yourself some free time like a holiday. Once you've made that amount of money, chasing more money becomes an exercise in diminishing returns. However,
that sounds pretty valid.
It sounds very valid, yeah.
It sounds very valid.
However, if you have a different mindset about what that money can do for you, and that money facilitates you having impact, creating,
And you get fulfilled from those.
then it's a totally different game. Because now if I make $1 million and that $1 million allows me to set up a community and to help those around me and to support people and to educate people
Yeah.
and to grow and to contribute, now I'm getting fulfillment from the result of what I'm spending my money on,
Yes.
as opposed to from the money or the cars.
Yes.
And that's a different thing.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Completely. I think, and that's important that you mentioned that.
Yeah,
That's
that's
important.
why I want loads of money.
Yeah, no,
and
but
I'm not
yeah,
gonna lie
yeah,
about that.
yeah, man, and that's I'm the same. Like, I don't want it to be one of these people that's, big, rich guy who's like, just sitting at home. Like you see them and they're vilified as these big men who are like probably fat or whatever.
Yeah,
And they're these
a fat
rich,
cat, a typical
yeah,
fat cat. Yeah,
yeah, and yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
the word. Not like that. It's for higher impact.
yeah.
But that's a very important point that you made.
And it's a slippery slope, because I think many people start with this idea of, I'm going to be a good person and make loads of money to change the world. But you get that first 50 grand check or the first offer for $1 million for your company to sell it to Marlboro or some big pharma company or something like that. That's enough to change most people's minds and say, well, you know what? I started off thinking I want to change the world, but fucking €1 million sounds nice. And then or you can get a taste for the feeling it brings when you make that money. It's addictive to make the money, and then you're just in it to make more money.
What's your thoughts on politics, right? Where
Uh-oh.
no, what's what's your thoughts on politics? Where would you say it's better to go into politics with no money and work your way up, or go in already after you've had a successful business career, you're extremely wealthy? Do you think which one would be better?
I'm going to give you option 3 is stay the fuck away from politics, because it's a rigged game. However,
If
option
you
t-
were to
if I
go
was
in
to option 2, obviously,
and you were an honest character,
real life experience in a position where you have to make decisions that influence other people, I don't think there's any substitute for real life experience. So if you are somebody who has built a business and understood money and understood people, and because if you build a successful business, you have to have a few foundational skills. You have to understand people.
Yeah.
You have to understand money. You have to understand leadership, economics, society,
balancing budgets.
100%. So you have to have some fundamental skill sets.
Yeah.
If you're in a position in this is why I think it's so funny when you see ministers jumping for, you were the minister for housing, now you're the minister for health, now you're the minister for everything else. Like,
That's true. That's true.
because I've had a lot of experience with people who are excellent at what they do becoming teachers, and it's not the same thing. So I think the experience helps. So if you have played football and you become a football coach, it definitely gives you perspective. It doesn't necessarily make you a great coach.
Yeah.
However, if you can combine being a great coach with having experience in the field of playing football, you're going to be a much better coach than someone who's just a great coach or just a great footballer.
And what about in terms of? Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I agree. And what about the idea of having the financial success going into politics? Do you think it's better because you can't be, there can't be anything under the table because you're like, you know what, I'm not motivated by money, I'm rich. You know what I'm saying here?
I know exactly what you're saying, and I think there's 2 answers to the question, because it depends on the type of person you are. Because even like I said, even the billionaire wants to be a trillionaire. So you could go in as a billionaire and have an opportunity to become a trillionaire. However, I do get your point, and I do think maybe there's less individual incentive to make decisions just to make money. You have a little bit more perspective on it, but I don't think it's a hard and fast rule. And this is why I find it hard to answer these questions, to have these discussions with most people. This is obviously much easier because there's so much nuance. Someone asks me, what do you think of this? And I'm like, well, there's a million things. This is why I like podcasting. There's
I know.
a million things we have to break down before I can answer that question for you. It depends. People hate that.
They do, don't they?
In medicine, what's wrong with me? It depends. What's the best diet? It depends.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors.
How do I put
here.
muscle on? It depends. People fucking hate. I hate that answer. I want the pill right now, but I know there's much more fulfillment in the it depends answer. So to answer the question, it depends. But I get the point. I get the point that you're making. I think someone who doesn't necessarily have as much. If I go into politics and I can't pay my mortgage, and someone offers me money to make a decision,
Very good point.
I have an individual incentive. So people say to me all the time, that politician isn't evil. They're never going to make a decision that's not for the good of the people. And I'm like, that politician is an individual human being with influencing factors. And this whole pharma thing, whatever about good and evil, if Big Pharma comes to me and leans on me and says, I'm going to give you this amount of money to make this decision, or I'm going to make your life very difficult if you make this decision, that's an individual. I'm not saying this happens all the time.
But an individual makes that decision.
A person with all their own fears and imposter syndrome and doubts
And
and bills to pay.
Decisions have consequences.
And decisions have consequences. So for me, every one of these questions is nuanced. And that's why, when we go back to social media, people arguing about politics and economics and societal issues on social media in fucking 144 character posts, I look at it, I'm like, what is this life we're living? There was no way you can understand nuance in that short amount of time. And here we are, over 2 hours anyway into a podcast, and we're still only scratching the surface of really deep concepts.
Mate, that would be honestly, to talk about that stuff, that's 2 or 3 hours in itself.
Easy peasy.
And that's like the bare minimum what you'd need to go through something like that. Because there's so many different avenues. But what's your thoughts on the things on Monday? They're getting rid of the masks here, aren't they?
Is this the Callum Roche podcast or the Prymal podcast?
No, sorry.
You're interviewing me now. I'm only messing with you.
Oh, shit. You had me on the back. No. Because
no, good question. Yeah.
I'm genuinely, man, like, I want to hear from you. Like, I get tired of talking.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So do I.
Like, honestly, I like listening.
Yeah. If you want my opinion, I think like anything, and I won't go.
Am I allowed to ask you a question?
You can ask me whatever you want, man. I don't have to answer.
All right. No, I'm just wondering. I don't want to be like.
This is a conversation.
Okay.
This is what and again, to the point I just made, conversations are powerful. You have to ask me questions. I have to ask you questions. Otherwise, it's
I want to know your thoughts on, like, I know, like, maybe you can get a controversial clip. I don't know.
Yeah. A COVID clip.
What's your thoughts on the thing on Monday? They're getting rid of the masks now. I see someone done a poll. It was like 50-50. Like, a lot of people are saying, like, some people are saying no. Like,
some people are saying no. Look, I have had a lot of anger and angst and disappointment and get caught up in all the shit over the last 2 years. I have my own opinions, but bottom line, my principle with this stuff is I believe people should be allowed to make their own decisions. I do understand that some people don't understand consequences of decisions. However, I think that in order for us to have a society that works, we have to empower the individual, as well as we have to have rules that enable a community. For example, I can't go around murdering people because I'm bigger and stronger than other people. So we have to have a set of rules that we all abide by to live as a group, as a society. And I am interested in this idea of Dunbar's number and small tribes of 150 to 200 people, where they had a collective understanding that we can't all do exactly what we want, but we have a set of rules that benefits everybody. So we'll all follow these rules, but we all agree to all these rules together. And that's essentially what democracy is supposed to be. Yeah. And I say supposed to be.
Yes.
Because nowadays, we live in these monstrous communities of millions of people, and we try and apply the same rules, which doesn't work because we're all different. So my opinion on mask mandates and stuff like this is I understand that there was a virus that was very threatening to people. However, that's nuanced because everybody is different. So everyone's level of threat with the virus was different.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like, so it was a threat to certain cohorts.
Yeah, 100%. And there were young, and again, at the risk of going deep in this, there were young, healthy people with no comorbidities that died from COVID. So yeah, sure. But it was rare. But my problem with this whole thing was our choice was taken away from us.
Yes.
That's a big problem for me because that's not justified in situations like this. It was a big deal. It was a pandemic, but the politicization of the entire thing was an issue. And when you start to, like, for example, cloth masks do literally nothing. This is not misinformation.
They're comfort cloths.
They do literally nothing. N95 masks are a completely different thing. They do actually filter virus particles. Yeah. But cloth masks do nothing. And this is common knowledge. This is not my opinion now. This is science. But
well, how dare you?
6 months ago, you can't say that. But now there's a fear. You go into a shop without a mask on, and there's a fear because it's an irrational fear that has been built up over 2 years that is now impossible to eradicate from people's minds. So when we get rid of the mask mandates, people will still wear masks because there's a level of fear there.
Yes.
And my opinion is that's fine. If they want to wear a mask, wear a mask.
I agree.
No problem. I've no problem with that. And if the information now was genuinely that by not wearing a mask, I could put someone else at risk, a cloth mask, I would probably wear a mask. But that's not the information now. And if you actually look at all the information, that's not what it's telling us. So I have an issue with people telling us that this is the only way to do it now. And on the 28th of February, it stops being an issue.
Mate, this is the mad thing.
So that's a problem for me.
Come Sunday, everyone will have them on. And then come Monday.
Well, 50% of the people will still keep them on because they're afraid.
But it's like overnight. Like, you know, I can't say too much about the story I was going to tell there. I would have loved to say it, but I'll give you an example. When the government made the announcements the last time when they dropped the restrictions, there was let's just say someone who was following the rules. Okay, let's just put it that way, because I don't want to name names or anything.
Yeah.
I was engaging with this person. We were, I don't want to get into, he'll know if he's listening, but it was just context to what you're saying. The government made these announcements, and basically we were doing something, and he said, "Oh no, it's all good now. You know, the government came on last night and said it's gone."
Yeah.
And I was kind of thinking, just like, so you're gonna act different now just because last night you were told that this is all done? And I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, he just overnight, they said that, therefore he could do that again.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's crazy. Like, yesterday you were so hell bent on this, and now like they mentioned one thing and you're like, nah, it's all good now. They said it. I just think that's mad.
But it's understandable to me. Look, okay, let me state my position extremely clearly for people who might be a little bit confused what my position is. I am not a COVID denier. I'm not anti anything. I'm not anti anything. What I am anti is bullshit, and I'm anti disempowerment, because as you might have gathered,
this is how we actually, you said you,
it is.
you
This is how I started following you, because you were quite outspoken at one point, and I was like, this
but I share the same belief as what you're saying.
Yeah, and I'm pro empowerment. So whatever any individual wants to do, I believe they should be allowed to do it, unless they're actively putting someone else's life at risk. So I don't think you should drive drunk at 100 miles an hour in a school zone. So I'm not saying we should live in we can do whatever you want, because if someone did that and killed one of my children or my family members, I would say, should we not have rules for this? And I'd be extremely angry. So that's not what I'm saying. However, the information that we had, because in the first couple of months no one knew what the fuck was going on, I accept that.
That's true. And I was like, you know, taking all the precautions.
100%. Yeah,
at the start.
Absolutely. And I have no opinion or judgment on anybody who still takes precautions or doesn't take precautions.
Each to your own.
Each to your own, because now we understand that they're not a risk to me and you, or I'm not a risk to them. In most contexts, there's nuance to this. Yeah. Always nuance. It depends.
I love the way you're really precise with your words.
I'm trying to be really precise, because this is going to be misinterpreted. I guarantee it's going to be misinterpreted. But I don't care, because I'm being extremely clear with the way I'm saying these things for a reason. So I'm not anti anything. I'm anti bullshit, and I really am against the restriction of freedoms unless there's massive cause, and I don't believe there was the right cause for the right restrictions of liberties and freedoms, and everyone did it differently, and I know it was all different. But however, to bring us back to the original question and the point on all this, there's an imbalance of information. And I first learned about this. There's a book over there, Freakonomics. You probably have read it.
Yeah, Freakonomics.
Amazing.
Really
so there's a concept I read in that years ago, and it always stuck with me as an imbalance of information. So let's bring it back to I won't use doctors anymore, because it feels like I'm ragging doctors. I love doctors. I love doctors. I always thought.
Yeah, you actually had so many great words. By the way, if anyone does think that, you were highly praising before all this. We had a great conversation.
There's a bad system, and it's not ideal, and we can improve it, but I think doctors are amazing people, nurses, all that kind of stuff. So don't misinterpret me on that. Let's use mechanics, right? A mechanic has an imbalance of information over you and me. Now, well, I understand cars, but let's say I know nothing about cars. I have to my car breaks down, I have to bring it to the mechanic to fix it. He understands how the car works, and I don't. So there's an imbalance of information, and he can leverage that to charge me money to provide a service.
Yes.
But he can also take advantage of that, and he can charge me 10 times what it's worth, or in the case of what happens a lot, now not all mechanics, but it can happen, is they can do things that you might not have needed and charge you for those things because you didn't understand.
It's a social bias. It's an authority bias.
It's an authority. So he has more knowledge about this thing, so I have to trust him, hence he can take advantage of that trust.
Man, it's exactly like it's marketing. Like the same with marketing. There's, you know, I would recommend for anyone to read Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's business partner. It's Poor Charlie's Almanac. It's a great book. It actually costs like 70 or 80 euro to get the book.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really good. But he breaks down like social biases and like how powerful they are, and one of them is authority bias.
Yeah.
And you know how that works, and how we, you know, these are things that we base our decisions around, and one of the strongest ones is authority. You know,
which answers this question about you listen to the 6 o'clock news and you do what they say. And again, I am not recommending we have a rising and we tear down government or anything like that. What I am recommending is we take that information and all other sources of information that we have access to,
yes,
and we make a decision. And I don't expect with somebody who understands nothing about medicine for you to be able to make that decision easily.
This whole thing of, right, this statement is so commonly used.
Yeah.
Trust the science. But like, I mean, like, don't question it. Just trust the science.
What is the science?
This is what they're saying.
Yeah, I know.
Like, what? That's what I wonder. What is the science? I want to know. That's why I ask. Like, I want to figure out, but it's like, don't ask questions. I think one person said, we'll act now and we'll do the science later. That was one of the things.
Yeah,
but like this whole thing of trust the science, like essentially, I think it's more worrying is science not, do we not advance civilization by actually coming to disagreements and actually questioning each other? And that's how we advance.
Science is literally challenging
Yes.
The findings. That is what science
That
is.
is what
that's
science
how
is.
you do an experiment, for example, and you get a result. If I can't challenge that, it's not science. Because I have to be able to challenge it and either prove it or disprove it multiple times for it to become something that we can then bring to the next level.
I completely agree. And I think if you go back to, say, the 1900s, scientists in the 1900s were actively looking to be proven wrong, right? Actively looking to be proven wrong. They'd be presenting their data and their findings to people and they'd be like, tear me apart, man. Figure out what's wrong with this because I want to get to that next level.
Yeah.
Now, you know, they're literally like, you say, no, man, that doesn't seem right. How dare you? How dare you say that? Like, and it's like, what's going on, man? This is crazy.
100%.
I thought science was meant to be like searching for like objective truth, you know?
100%. At the risk of going on an absolute rampage here and going right down the rabbit hole, my overarching, to try and answer your question really simply,
sorry, man,
10 minutes later, try and answer your question because I've rambled on.
I do it too.
When I look at science and I look at the information that we're given, a big red flag for me is when one side of the conversation is shut down, because I think we should allow everybody say what they need to say, and then we all decide together what we believe. So when I see in our own government, and this is all over mainstream news, this is not weird conspiracy or I heard it in some back end podcast, on the television that everyone likes to look at and watch the news, in our doll, in the house where people are discussing these ideas, we have somebody asking a question about whatever. It could be a vaccine, or it could be, there we are, we're cancelled. I said the word. It could be
man, that's why
a mask.
When you said that, I was like, oh, this podcast it's not going live.
It's done, yeah.
You're right, in the doll.
One of the senators brings up a question about, oh, look, there's this information about a mask or a vaccine or a lockdown or whatever. And as they're saying this, there's someone on the other side of the room shouting at them.
I know what you're going to say.
They're not allowed to say this. They can't spread this misinformation. This is dangerous. And I'm sitting there as the observer saying, well, hold on a second. Maybe tell me everything and then let me decide. And if you really think that information is so dangerous and damaging, well, then bring your own information and discount that information, because this is science. Have the conversation.
Democracy.
And you should be able to undermine what that person said through your words and ideas and concepts,
rather than shouting like a kid.
Shouting like a kid, which is essentially just a live version of what social media is.
So true.
It's whoever shouts loudest wins. So when I see that, whatever my opinions on anything, COVID, vaccines, masks, that's all irrelevant because they're my opinions.
But let's speak normally.
Let's have a conversation.
Yeah, let's actually talk about it. This is what I said.
It's a red flag for me.
Man, that's the one thing so many people, like, I'm just like, why can't we just talk about it? Like, why can't we actually just like, okay, you tell me that, you know what I mean? But it's like, no, if you don't agree with what I'm saying, you're a bad person.
You're a bad person.
And what's going on, I find in Ireland right now, is that whole thing of, if you don't agree with what I say, you're a bad person. Like, that's crazy. Like, we can still be friends and differ on opinions. Like, just because me and you don't agree doesn't mean we can't be friends.
Yeah.
Like, but it's got to the point now where you can't do that anymore. It's like, no, like, I've literally, like, some people don't speak to me because of certain things.
I believe that, yeah.
Yeah, man, and it's crazy, like.
To put this in the greater, to take it away from COVID, because COVID was one example of this.
Yeah,
This was happening before, no apologies. This was happening before COVID. This is why I get really passionate about this, because this is a really, really deep issue, I think, at the moment, because before COVID, there was something else. There was another movement or another social movement that divided people. And my whole thing is, there's definitely issues. COVID was a real thing. There was a massive problem. I don't have the answer for government to fix COVID. I don't have the answer for racism and sexism and all that. But one thing I do know is we can't let it divide us as people. Because if we're dividing and fighting each other, we'll never come up with the answer. And if I have to join the left and you have to join the right, and we're no longer friends or family members, like, I've seen families and relationships divided, not just by COVID issues, but by many issues nowadays.
Seen it hands-on myself.
Like, I've seen this isn't something I've read about. I've seen this in real life, and so have you.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the proper, like, not.
I'm
People
never
not even-
speaking to
yeah,
you again.
That type
You're
of
a
stuff.
disgusting
You're
person.
crazy.
You're dangerous. You don't
But
care.
you know what, man? And I don't mind saying this, like, because it's just like a political view, and I just want to put it out there that, like, I used to be like very, like, not like, I don't say very, but I used to, let's say, be left, right? I did. Like, I thought what the left and the Democrats, personally, what that was, there's a lot of things that I was like, yeah, I agree with that. But I think the ideology of where it is today, in terms of like some of the views, like JFK, I was saying, is one of my role models. He was a Democrat, right? He was on the left. JFK's party today would be viewed as like nearly far right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like gone like to this point where it's, in my opinion, it's gone very far left.
But what the hell are these labels like? It's crazy that you have to be a left or a right. You ask me, I don't know what the fuck
Mate,
I am.
If I was to say what I am, like, that's the whole thing, like,
it doesn't
left, right.
exist.
It's just like, listen, man, I have beliefs and values. So I'll give you an example, right? I can't tell you what I am. All I know is, like, for example, same-sex marriage. Man, of course, you do you, I'll do me. I have no issues with that. Some stuff on the right, like strong borders, stuff like that. I agree. There's so many things on both sides that I'm like, literally, like, right now I'm probably like center, right. But like, there's stuff on the left. I'm like, yeah, man, of course. And it's like, why do you have to be like on either side? I'm like, can't we all just like, kind of, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
No,
Just
I know
mean
what you're
it,
trying to
what I
say,
mean?
and I'd like to just offer a closing point on that topic before I go way off the rails on it.
Sorry.
No, apologies, please. It's very interesting and it's very relevant. I believe that the vast majority of people are the same as me and you. They're somewhere in the middle. They're good people. They want to do the right thing. They care about everybody else.
Yeah.
They care about living well. But I believe the way things are structured and are fed to us now force us to pick a side.
Well, I find that the left, and not to go left and right and all this stuff, but like, you can be pretty factual about things. And it's not to pick sides, because I think that's silly as well. But like, I find like it's like they're nearly creating these groups. You know what I'm saying? It's like let me give some factual examples. So like, for example, let's say the whole thing of let's say LGBT, right? That could be one thing. Then they're like, there's another group and there's another group. And then it's like, there's so many of these groups and it creates this divide. And it's like, listen, why can't we all just like be one, like we're all good. Like, I mean, you do you, I'll do me. And, I'm a big believer in equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. And I see everyone on the same page. There's certain things, obviously we all have our own values, but I just find that the left nowadays are really creating all these different groups, and I think they know that helps them in the long run, because me and you stay mad at each other, like you don't support, or you support BLM, like, it's like, what? Why are we fighting? Like,
Yeah,
and Michelle Obama said, I was watching a documentary, and someone said to Michelle Obama, I'm paraphrasing, by the way.
yeah.
It was like, Michelle, growing up, in the area you grow up in, as a black woman who may have had life harder, and all this stuff, how did you deal with that? And Michelle literally looked her dead in the eye and was like, that's the problem. She was like, I never viewed myself as any different than anybody else. And I was like, wow, that's so true. That's so true. That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Because like, man, even like a lot of this stuff is like, people who, like, I seen the UFC fighter talk about Joe Rogan. They were saying he's racist, and he's like, "Man, Joe's a good guy."
Oh yeah, yeah.
And this guy was a colored guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, I don't know, man. It's like there's people telling us how we should feel, and as you said, most people probably don't feel that way.
No, it's linked with an issue, an identity crisis that we have at the moment. We're all looking for meaning and belonging, and we're being told this is where we find it. Just like we're being told it's in the BMW or the bigger house, it's also in this political party or this social movement, because we want to be part of something good. We want to this is my experience from a medical point of view. We want to feel good. Everyone wants to feel good. We want to belong. We want to have a good life, a good family, good friends. So it's easy then with that desire to lead us into, oh, this group will make me feel good, and you become part of Antifa, or you become a hardcore lefty or whatever. And like you said, and I've said now, and I'll repeat this till the day I die, most people are Somewhere in the middle,
Maybe-
we could all get along. Most people.
Maybe that's how we linked. You know, I said something that most people are thinking.
Yeah.
You know, like I said it, most people are probably thinking it. And surprisingly enough, when I do actually talk about certain topics, man, hundreds of messages saying,
Yeah.
you know what, completely agree with you. And I think that is a big thing. Like what one person says, usually 100 people are probably thinking the same.
Yeah. Oh, fact.
Um,
Because we're all just on this spinning fucking rock trying to figure it out.
But you're right. I personally, politics, that's the whole thing. It's a very kind of, it's not
It's not clean cut.
yeah, and it's not like, oh, the public interest is at the best heart here. Because like, if that was the case, the world would all be,
It'd be amazing.
yeah, man.
amazing.
But politics is a touchy subject.
It's very touchy, yeah.
But I have no issue speaking about it. But that's my viewpoint, man. I'm very center right, a little bit center left.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be.
No, I appreciate that, yeah. And I appreciate you bringing it up and challenging me on it as well, because this is interesting. It's very, very
You
interesting.
think so?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Any other topics?
Man, how long are we?
Yeah, it's probably been a while, man. If we got it, like, trust me, what time is it now,
It's
actually?
2:30.
2:30.
Yeah.
I actually might have to go see a client soon.
Yeah, 100%. So do I. But look,
yeah, man, I didn't mean to.
No, geez, we've another 2 or 3 podcasts to do before we finish this relationship.
Yeah, man, I'm down for coming again.
Did you enjoy it?
Man, don't be asking stupid questions.
No such thing as a stupid question.
Yeah, are we going to do this again sometime?
100% we're doing this again. Definitely.
Because, you know, there's so many different things, man. Like, even in terms of the business and marketing stuff,
Yeah.
there's so much stuff. Other things, like, you know, as you said, like, we could talk for hours.
Well, I feel like we got a really good mix there. There's definitely some really practical information that you shared there that people like me, I'm going to implement some of this stuff straight away. It's all about implementation. And definitely the listeners will, anyone who's trying to run a business or start a project. There was some really, really good information in there. So thank you for that. But also thank you for sharing the personal side, and there's a lot on your opinions and beliefs. And I think it's important for that to have context. I didn't just bring you on to give us the top 10 tips for social media. It was to understand the person behind the message.
I think even in terms of like the top 10 tips, like even that type of question, top 10 tips for social media, because I know people are curious, and when they're starting out, they're looking for answers like that. And the biggest piece of advice I could give to somebody is be yourself, be authentic. When you're starting out, man, scream from the hilltops, you know, brag about yourself, let people know you're amazing. And if you're providing a serious service and it's going to help people, man, it's your obligation to go and get that in front of them, and don't be afraid. And you're gonna be uncomfortable at first, but it's like, you know, forging the sword. You know, you got to keep pounding away, and that's how you become great. So you just got to take the 4 steps, keep moving, and figure it out as you go. Man, I said to you already at the start, everybody's winging it.
Yeah.
People are winging it, man. You know what I mean? I don't have it all figured out. As I said, I was over in London trying to figure something else out.
Yeah.
You're the same, like, you know.
Yeah.
Who knows, man? But I actually learned so much. And I'm gonna, after we wrap up, I need to ask you about my ankle.
we'll have a look and see what we can do.
Yeah. Have you got like a table there in the back? You know, one of them things.
Oh, well, I'll tell you off air. Before I let you go, if people want to get in touch, they're interested, want to reach out, they want to follow along, where's the best place for people to find Mr. Callum Roche?
You know what, man? Keep it simple. Text me on Instagram. I look at all my DMs. People think that you don't, but I think everybody looks at their DMs.
Well, you're very good at replying to comments and stuff like that. You're all over it.
Yeah, man. Drop a comment. You know, just follow me on Instagram at Cal Roche. I would say if you're in business and you're looking to get to that next level, you're struggling with getting attention, getting more customers, and you're kind of 1 month is up and the next month is down, and you kind of have that overwhelm, reach out to me. That's what my company Roche Marketing does. Roche Marketing Group, sorry. We offer the best services, guarantees. Our businesses, we're not like a typical marketing agency. So big thing with agencies is they tie you into these like 3-month, 6-month contracts, and it's like they make it really hard and people are frightened. Listen, man, I'm all about, I'll give you what you need when you need it, month to month, no long-term contracts. Essentially what I do is I act as the outsourced CMO. I'm like, you know, you need a chief marketing officer, man, that come to me. That's what I am, essentially an outsourced CMO on a month-to-month basis. So, you know, you could be struggling with this, I'll come in, prescribe you like a doctor, and that's it. And you don't have to, there's none of that. So, and we offer the best guarantees. So that's how we roll, man. I'm in the business of multiplying money.
I love it, man. I love the confidence. I love the principles. I love the practical tips.
It was a world-class podcast.
I loved it. Yeah, it was what an amazing conversation.
We're doing it again.
We're definitely doing it again. It's on fucking mic now.
Don't lie to me.
I'm accountable to you and to these people here. I'm now accountable.
Don't lie. He better not be lying.
I'm not lying. I don't lie.
Man, I swear. You know what I mean? Maybe this place is going to grow even more, and then when I come down next time...
No maybes, man.
No, as in, I was saying that maybe you're gonna hit me with an invoice. That's what he's gonna do. He's gonna come down
on the show, man.
Not maybe is it gonna grow. Maybe is he gonna hit me with an invoice because of it.
Listen, man.
Yeah, man.
Been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, world class. See you later, guys.
Folks, thank you so much for listening to that episode of the podcast with Mr. Callum Roche, and thank you, Callum, for joining me. I really enjoyed the conversation. Remember, folks, this podcast is sponsored by Flotation Therapy Ireland, and Adam, the owner, has kindly offered a discount for anybody who wants to try out their next float. Just make sure you mention Prymal or myself when you're booking your session. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.